Chapter 561. Ning Shu went to the pharmacy to find a doctor and hurried back with him. Mother Zhu was still lying on the bed, and the doctor was taking her pulse. Ning Shu stood beside the bed, holding little Siyuan's hand. If the plot didn't change, Mother Zhu wouldn't be able to survive this winter. "Doctor, how's my mother-in-law?" Ning Shu asked. The doctor took back his hand from Mother Zhu's wrist and shook his head. "It's not a serious illness. She's just depressed and worried. She needs to be nursed back to health." Ning Shu thanked the doctor and gave him the consultation fee. To put it bluntly, Mother Zhu's illness was caused by her overthinking. Mother Zhu was a woman from a big house. Ever since Grandfather Zhu died, Mother Zhu had been in a state of panic. Her son wasn't by her side, and she didn't have a man to rely on. Ning Shu shook his head. Mother Zhu was too weak. Zhu Sunyang took good care of Mother Zhu and didn't let her do any heavy work. As a result, Mother Zhu overthought things when she was free. Ning Shu gave each of the women who came to help a piece of tofu to express his gratitude. The women accepted the tofu with smiles and told Ning Shu to call them if he needed anything. Ning Shu thanked them profusely. Ning Shu sat beside the bed and took Mother Zhu's pulse. The results were similar to what the doctor said. Ning Shu was speechless. Mother Zhu was depressed. Mother Zhu slowly woke up. Seeing Ning Shu beside the bed, she asked, "What's wrong with me?" "Mother, you're fine. You're just a bit weak. You'll be fine after more rest," Ning Shu said, avoiding the main point. "The doctor gave me a prescription. I'll be fine after taking it." Mother Zhu struggled to get up. Ning Shu helped her up. Mother Zhu said tiredly, "No need to take the medicine. Leave the money to Yanqiu." Since ancient times, illness had been the most frightening thing to people, because a family could very well be hollowed out. Zhu Sunyang didn't give up on Mother Zhu. She had a hard time every day and had to take care of her sick mother-in-law. The money for the medicine and Zhu Yanqiu's school fees all fell on Zhu Sunyang's shoulders. Zhu Sunyang could only make more tofu to sell. Often, she would be so tired that she would fall asleep on the millstone. During the period when Zhu Mu's mother was sick, Zhu Sunyang worked too hard and hurt her body. In the end, she died early. "It's okay. We have money to buy medicine for you," Ning Shu said. "I'll make more tofu to sell tomorrow." Mother Zhu sighed and said, "I know my own body best. Send a telegram to Yanqiu and have him come back." Ning Shu agreed and went to the post office to send a telegram to Zhu Yanqiu. Even if he sent the telegram, it was useless. Zhu Yanqiu would not come back at all. The reason was that his studies were more important, and he had no time. Zhu Sunyang sent telegrams to him one after another, but Zhu Yanqiu did not respond. Before Mother Zhu died, all she wanted to do was to see her son. She kept looking at the door, but Zhu Yanqiu did not come back in the end. At that time, Zhu Yanqiu, as an ambitious young man, was marching in the streets and shouting to revitalize the Chinese nation. After sending a telegram to Zhu Yanqiu, Ning Shu took the prescription to the pharmacy to get medicine for Mother Zhu. In the plot, under such difficult conditions, Zhu Sunyang did not give up on Mother Zhu. Mother Zhu had a very good reputation in this town and was known as a virtuous daughter-in-law. However, Zhu Yanqiu still abandoned Zhu Sunyang. Ning Shu did not intend to ruin this reputation. After all, in this era, reputation was very important to women. Even if he went against Zhu Yanqiu in the future, he would be justified. Besides, he would not send money to Zhu Yanqiu anymore. The nearly 20 yuan at home and the money from selling tofu every day was enough for them to live well. After getting the medicine, Ning Shu went back to decoct the medicine for Mother Zhu. When she saw Ning Shu, the first thing Mother Zhu did was to ask Ning Shu if he had sent a telegram to Zhu Yanqiu. Ning Shu said he had. Mother Zhu only missed her son. In the past few years, Zhu Sunyang had been taking care of her, but Zhu Sunyang had not entered her heart. She would not lose anything if she said some nice things. Before she died, she grabbed Zhu Sunyang's hand and said that she was a good daughter-in-law of the Zhu family. She hoped that the two of them would live well in the future. She would be relieved if she knew. Mother Zhu was afraid that Zhu Sunyang would not take care of Zhu Yanqiu after she died, and would play tricks on Zhu Sunyang before she died. Zhu Sunyang was very touched. Mother Zhu's slight approval could make her die. After Mother Zhu died, Zhu Sunyang continued to sell tofu to take care of Zhu Yanxiu. Ning Shu decocted the medicine for Mother Zhu. Seeing little Ning Shu looking at him, Ning Shu took out some dried tofu for Zhu Siyuan. Zhu Siyuan took the dried tofu and ate happily. Ning Shu felt that he had to improve the food at home in the future. He had to eat well and wear warm clothes to live a good life. Speaking of which, Zhu Yanxiu had not seen her son until now. Zhu Yanxiu refreshed Ning Shu's outlook on life. His wife did not come back when she gave birth, and his mother did not come back when she died. He came back when he was successful and famous. He kowtowed a few times at his mother's grave and shed a few drops of cat urine. Was that his filial piety? Ning Shu gave the medicine to Mother Zhu and said, "Mother, drink the medicine while it's hot." The black medicine was very bitter. Mother Zhu held her breath and drank it. It was so bitter that she smacked her lips. She said with some nostalgia, "When I was in the big house, I could eat candied fruit every day." Alas! Ning Shu glanced at Mother Zhu. Candied fruit was more expensive than meat. It was a snack for rich families. With the Zhu family's current situation, they could not afford to eat candied fruit. "Mother, why don't I go buy some candied fruit for you?" Ning Shu said. Mother Zhu looked a little moved. Finally she said, "Forget it. We don't have much money at home. We still have to send money to Yanxiu and buy medicine. I won't die if I don't eat candied fruit." Ning Shu made an "oh" sound and did not say anything. The next day, after Ning Shu sold the tofu, he went to the dessert shop and bought some candied fruit. He also bought dried walnuts for Zhu Siyuan to nourish his brain. Now, Ning Shu wanted to raise Zhu Siyuan until he was white and chubby. He could not suffer for Zhu Yanxiu. Even if Zhu Yanxiu could not see his suffering, she would not care. When he was buying, Ning Shu told the shop owner that his mother-in-law was afraid of bitter medicine and that he would buy some candied fruit for her. Anyway, she was a virtuous daughter-in-law who worked hard without complaint. She might as well be more filial. She also wanted to try candied fruit. After Mother Zhu drank the medicine, Ning Shu gave her the candied fruit. When Mother Zhu saw the candied fruit, her eyes flashed with surprise. She said, "Why did you buy such an expensive thing? It's too wasteful." "Mother, I know what I'm doing. Today's tofu sold for a bit more money than yesterday," Ning Shu said lightly. Mother Zhu put the candied fruit in her mouth and closed her eyes. Her expression was one of reminiscence and enjoyment. Then, she put away the rest of the candied fruit. She did not think about giving Ning Shu too. Ning Shu secretly curled his lips. Fortunately, she had left some for the child. Mother Zhu was also a selfish person. Because Mother Zhu was sick, Zhu Siyuan slept with Ning Shu. After coaxing Zhu Siyuan to sleep, Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the bed and cultivated his peerless martial arts. In troubled times, he had to have the ability to protect himself and his child. Chapter 562. After practicing the peerless martial arts for a while, Ning Shu stopped. His body was covered in sweat. Ning Shu fetched some water and wiped his body, then began to make tofu. At this time, it was at most 3 in the morning. Ning Shu had to grind until 10 in the morning, and he had to get up at 3 in the morning to make tofu. When the sun rose, he had to carry the steaming tofu to sell. This meant that Zhu Sunyang couldn't even get 6 hours of sleep a day. Ning Shu made some dried tofu to sell. He sprinkled a few peppercorns and squeezed the water out of the tofu. The dried tofu was not bad and had a firm texture. It would sell well with tofu, and the price was slightly higher than that of the tofu. Ning Shu was about to go out with the load when Zhu Su's mother struggled to get up from the bed. She leaned against the door and said to Ning Shu, "Sunyang, send a telegram to Yanxiu. I want to see him." Ning Shu saw that Zhu Su's mother's face was pale, and she looked very weak. He nodded and said, "Mother, I know." After Ning Shu went out, he locked the door from the outside. There were children and patients in the house. What if a bad person got in? Maybe it was because he had practiced the peerless martial arts that his physical fitness had improved a little. He walked very quickly with the load today and felt a little more relaxed. After selling the tofu, Ning Shu went to the post office. Ning Shu, who was at the counter, said, "There's a telegram for you." Ning Shu took it and glanced at it. It was Zhu Yanqiu's reply. The content was that she was busy with her studies and couldn't take time out to go home. At the end of the letter, she asked Ning Shu to send some money, and her tone wasn't good. Zhu Yanqiu was probably unhappy that he didn't send the telegram last time. Ning Shu grinned and sent a telegram to Zhu Yanqiu. The content was that her mother was very sick and wanted to see her. Come back quickly. Ning Shu paid for the telegram. In this era, telegrams were very expensive. They were all calculated by the number of words. How much was a word? After a while, Ning Shu did not have much money left from selling tofu. He would only send telegrams when there was something important. Normally he would write letters. After leaving the post office, Ning Shu went to a butcher's stall to buy some meat. Now that he had to improve his diet, he had to eat meat at least once a day. Moreover, Ning Shu was always hungry when he was cultivating his peerless martial arts. Originally, Ning Shu wanted to eat the fasting pill. However, when he thought about how the environment would only get worse and worse, and how food would become more and more scarce, he decided to use the fasting pill as a last resort. Back home, Ning Shu gave the telegram to Mother Zhu, who was lying in bed, and said, "Mother, Yanqiu said that she is busy with her studies and may not come back this year." Mother Zhu looked at the contents of the telegram and didn't say anything. Her face was pale, and she looked very disappointed. Ning Shu said, "I sent him another telegram." Mother Zhu said, "Yanqiu wants money. Did you send him the money?" "I did." Ning Shu spouted nonsense. Zhu Yanqiu wouldn't be able to get anything from her in the future. Mother Zhu turned over on the bed with her back facing Ning Shu. Her breathing was a little rough. She was probably crying secretly. Ning Shu didn't say anything. He turned around and left Mother Zhu's room. When he returned to his room, he saw Zhu Siyuan sitting on the bed, eating candied fruits and dried tofu. When he saw Ning Shu, he climbed down from the bed and called out to Ning Shu in a childish voice. He was a 3-year-old child, but he had never seen his father. After Zhu Sunyang died, Zhu Siyuan was taken over by Zhu Yanqiu. After all, he was her child. The teenager was in his rebellious period. He hated his father, Zhu Yanqiu, and the heroine Fang Feifei. He would do anything that made Zhu Yanqiu unhappy. He was a hopeless child. No matter how much Zhu Yanqiu beat him, it was useless. At that time, Zhu Yanqiu was already famous. He was a high-ranking military officer and had tens of thousands of men under his command. He could be the king of a place. Zhu Siyuan's evil and destructive power was a little too great. He caused trouble everywhere with Zhu Yanqiu's power. Zhu Siyuan hated his father to the bone. His mother was devoted to him. But in return, Zhu Yanqiu abandoned her mercilessly. The father and son were enemies. They felt that they couldn't live under the same sky. They fought whenever they saw each other. There were several times when Zhu Yanqiu wanted to take out his gun and shoot him, but he couldn't do it in the end. A man who abandoned his wife and son succeeded in the end and was respected by others. Ning Shu touched Zhu Siyuan's head. Now that they were living together, he didn't care if Zhu Yanqiu died. He would let Zhu Siyuan become a good young man with dreams and ambitions. In the end, he would climb above his father and make his father bow to him. If he hated someone, he would have to climb higher than him and control his fate. Then, as Zhu Siyuan's mother, he would have to set an example for Zhu Siyuan. Wasn't Fang Feifei called a heroine? Ning Shu's days were very busy. He didn't sleep at night and used meditation to replace sleep. In the early morning, he had to wake up to make tofu. Ning Shu wanted to earn more money now and buy more food. When there was a shortage of food, even a small yellow croaker wouldn't be able to buy a steamed bun. He had to fulfill Zhu Sunyang's wish and take good care of Zhu Siyuan. He also had to plan a happy life for Zhu Sunyang. Zhu Sunyang had fallen to this point. Wasn't it because Zhu Sunyang wasn't as capable as Fang Feifei? The weather was getting colder. Ning Shu used money to buy cotton and cloth to make 2 winter jackets for little Siyuan and himself. The reason why he didn't make clothes for Zhu Sunyang's mother was that she was bedridden. Her condition was so serious that she couldn't get out of bed. No matter how much medicine she took, it didn't work. Although it didn't work, Ning Shu still took medicine and boiled it for Zhu Sunyang's mother. He even bought candied fruit several times. Ning Shu felt that this was because of Zhu Sunyang's mother's mentality. She couldn't bear hardships. If she could endure it, she would definitely become a blessed old lady. After all, Zhu Yanxiu would become rich in the future. Sometimes, Zhu Sunyang's mother was so sick that she was muddle-headed. She would call out Zhu Yanxiu's name. It seemed that she wouldn't be able to endure it for long. When the doctor came to see her, he told Ning Shu to prepare for her funeral. Ning Shu frequently went to the post office to send telegrams to Zhu Yanxiu, asking him to come back. Zhu Yanxiu would reply before, but later on, he was probably annoyed by Ning Shu. In addition, he didn't send him money for a long time. Zhu Yanxiu was angry and didn't reply at all. Ning Shu directly said that his mother was dying, and that he had to come back to send the coffin. This time, Zhu Yanxiu replied. He was very dissatisfied with Ning Shu saying that his mother was dying. Zhu Yanxiu didn't believe that his mother was dying. Zhu Yanxiu's mother was the madam of a rich family, and had always been in good health. Besides, Zhu Yanxiu also knew that Zhu Sunyang was in charge of everything at home. In the end, Zhu Yanxiu said at the end of the letter, "Thank you for everything at home." Then he said that the winter in Shanghai was very cold. The sea breeze from the Huangpu River was humid and cold. Anyway, he needed money to buy clothes. Ning Shu tore the telegram. Anyway, Zhu Yanxiu wouldn't come back no matter how much he said. Coming out of the post office, Ning Shu began to prepare the coffin and shroud. Zhu Sunyang's mother couldn't even eat now. She could only eat a little liquid food. Sometimes she couldn't even drink water. When Zhu Sunyang's mother was sober, she asked Ning Shu if Zhu Yanxiu had come back. As soon as Ning Shu said no, Zhu Sunyang's mother began to cry. Chapter 563. When Ning Shu saw that Mother Zhu's forehead was filled with a thick aura of death, and her forehead was dark, she knew that Mother Zhu would pass away in a few days. Instead of selling tofu, Ning Shu stayed close to Mother Zhu to take care of her. She also recorded the date of Mother Zhu's death, so that the geomancer could find a good grave for her. "Sunyang, come to me." Mother Zhu, who was so sick that she couldn't even turn over, sat up on her own. Ning Shu waved at her. Ning Shu saw that Mother Zhu's complexion was better than before she was sick. He felt creeped out and walked over to ask, "Mother, what's wrong?" Mother Zhu reached out to hold Ning Shu's hand, and patted the back of Ning Shu's hand with her other hand. Ning Shu wanted to withdraw his hand, but Mother Zhu held it. How could a sick person have so much strength? "You're a good woman and a good daughter-in-law. Yanxiu is lucky to have a daughter-in-law like you. After I leave, you and Yanxiu should live well and take care of Siyuan." Mother Zhu said to Ning Shu, "Yanxiu's father and I will rest in peace if we see you happy together in the underworld." Ning Shu just said, "Mother, don't say such discouraging words. You'll get better." Mother Zhu shook her head. "I dreamed of Master last night. He came to pick me up. I know my body can't take it anymore. Promise me that you'll live well with Yanxiu." Ning Shu nodded indifferently. He wasn't agitated by Mother Zhu's words. "Mother, don't worry. I'll live well." Living well didn't necessarily mean living with Zhu Yanxiu. Mother Zhu didn't hear Ning Shu's unspoken words and nodded with satisfaction. She looked out the door again and said with longing and sadness, "I wonder how Yanxiu is doing now." Zhu Yanxiu had left home to study in Shanghai when she was 18. She was almost 21 now. No wonder Mother Zhu wanted to see what Zhu Yanxiu looked like. Ning Shu helped Mother Zhu lie down. Mother Zhu's eyes were still fixed on the door. Ning Shu stayed close to Mother Zhu and placed Zhu Siyuan, who had fallen asleep in his arms, on the bed. When he returned to Mother Zhu's room, Ning Shu saw that she was already asleep. He called out to her, but there was no response. Ning Shu placed his hand in front of Mother Zhu's nose. She was no longer breathing. Ning Shu was quite scared to die in the middle of the night. He hurriedly went out and knocked on the door of the neighbor next door, asking for help. Ning Shu's eyes were red all the time. Hearing that Mother Zhu had passed away, the neighbors saw that it wasn't easy for Ning Shu to manage the funeral alone at home, so they all came to help. With everyone's help, Zhu Mu's mother's body was moved to the hall and laid in the middle of the hall. They began to clean Zhu Mu's mother's body and put on her shroud. They worked until dawn. Sunyang, Zhu Yanxiu hasn't come back yet? Ning Shu, the auntie next door, asked. What will happen if she stays with the coffin? Ning Shu shook his head and anxiously argued for Zhu Yanxiu. Yanxiu is too busy with her studies. Siyuan and I will stay with the coffin. The people in the hall looked at each other. In the end, an elder in the family stood up and said, What scholar? Why didn't the old woman come back? Ning Shu lowered his head and didn't say anything. Ning Shu and the little boy, Zhu Siyuan, were the ones staying with the coffin. They wore coarse white clothes and knelt in front of the coffin to burn paper. Zhu Siyuan was confused and didn't understand what was going on. Ning Shu spent a lot of money to hire a feng shui master to find a good grave. She also hired a chef to prepare food and wine for the relatives, friends, and elders in the family who came to pay their respects. In short, Ning Shu was in charge of all these things. He even hired a Swana team to play the drums and beat the drums. They were going to bury Zhu Mu's mother grandly. Because they needed a man to send the coffin, the only man at home was Zhu Siyuan. However, Zhu Siyuan was confused. The feng shui master told Ning Shu to hold the child. The child held a small incense burner in his hand. There was a stick of incense in the burner, and it was fine as long as the incense didn't go out or the burner was knocked over. After going through the entire process of the funeral, Ning Shu carried Zhu Siyuan and walked at the front of the funeral procession. She didn't even look back as she walked to the chosen grave. Fortunately, nothing went wrong during the process. Zhu Mu's mother was successfully buried. Ning Shu watched as the soil gradually covered the coffin. Zhu Mu's mother hadn't suffered much in her life. She was the daughter of a rich family. Then she married the scholar Old Master Zhu. Her family declined, and Zhu Sunyang took care of her like she was her own mother. She probably used up all her blessings in this life. Zhu Yanxiu didn't succeed in life. After Zhu Mu's mother was buried, Ning Shu didn't send Zhu Yanxiu any more telegrams. Even if Zhu Yanxiu sent a telegram, Ning Shu would tear it up after reading it. Sometimes he would take it back and give it to Zhu Siyuan to make paper airplanes. Ning Shu was still making tofu. However, there were restaurants that liked Ning Shu's dried tofu. They would sell some tofu every day. His life was much better than before. He had accumulated some money. He used most of it to buy food and store it. After being fed by Ning Shu for a period of time, Zhu Siyuan was much fatter than before. Her hair was not as yellow as before. Ning Shu had been recuperating this body. In addition, she had some success in cultivating the peerless martial arts when she was free, so her strength was much greater than before. Ning Shu had been looking for a suitable weapon for himself. In this era, guns were the most powerful weapons. However, Ning Shu didn't have the means to get a gun. Was he going to carry a big knife and be a heroine? It was better to use a hidden weapon. It was convenient to carry and hide. Ning Shu asked the blacksmith to get her a large needle. It was about the size of a nail, but much sharper than a nail. When Ning Shu had nothing to do, she would practice swinging the needle in the yard to practice her aim. The world would only become more and more chaotic. When the Japanese trampled on the land, the whole nation was wailing and struggling in pain. Ning Shu went to the pharmacy to get some medicine. He made some poisonous powder and some medicinal powder that could stop bleeding and treat external injuries. A woman and a child were both vulnerable and easy to be bullied. When he was free, Ning Shu also let Zhu Siyuan run around the yard and do the horse dance to train his body. However, Zhu Siyuan was just a child. He didn't know how to think, so Ning Shu could only strengthen himself. Ning Shu still went out to sell tofu every day. However, the atmosphere in the town was not right. It was filled with a panicked atmosphere. The Japanese launched the September 18th incident. Because the central government didn't resist the policy, the northeast warlord Zhang Shuoyang didn't resist and retreated into the pass. As a result, the three northeast provinces quickly fell. The whole society was condemning Zhang Shuoyang and the Nanjing central government. These were too high and mighty for the people. Because of the fall of the three northeast provinces, many people fled the northeast and poured into other places. Moreover, after the Japanese occupied the three northeast provinces, they continued to expand. It was very likely that they would attack this place. The influx of these refugees would cause a lot of chaos. In this national war, Everyone was helpless and precarious. Ning Shu truly felt the insignificance of an individual. Many people in the town had already started to move. When someone took the lead to move, the others followed blindly. They were afraid to be a step slower. Chapter 564. Ning Shu also started to move, because there would be a large number of refugees here soon. They would do anything for a bite of food. Especially a woman like her, she could easily become the target of refugees. In the plot, Zhu Sunyang took her child to Shanghai. She went to find Zhu Yinxiu with excitement and fear, and went to Shanghai, which was full of life and luxury. Zhu Sunyang was confused when she arrived in Shanghai. Gij didn't come, and she found that Zhu Yinxiu had a girl he liked, which made Zhu Sunyang even more uneasy and scared. Zhu Yinxiu was not happy about Zhu Sunyang's arrival. He even disliked her in his heart. When he introduced Zhu Sunyang to others, he said that Zhu Sunyang was his sister. Zhu Sunyang was about 5 years older than Zhu Yinxiu. Plus, she worked hard in life, so she looked older than Zhu Yinxiu, who was handsome and full of intellectual aura. Zhu Sunyang was a little sad. She was Zhu Yinxiu's wife, but he said that she was his sister. Zhu Yinxiu's reason was that he didn't want his classmates to know that he had a family and was a child bride. Such a futile way would be laughed at by his classmates. Zhu Sunyang was not a very opinionated person. When others asked her, she would say that she was Zhu Yinxiu's sister. Later, Zhu Sunyang really couldn't get used to the life in Shanghai. Looking at her husband, who was wearing a white shirt and a cap, she felt very strange and distant. She took her child back to the small town and lived a bitter life. Zhu Yinxiu didn't ask Zhu Sunyang to stay. Maybe in Zhu Yinxiu's heart, Zhu Sunyang and Zhu Siyuan were shameful existences, and he even regretted consummating with Zhu Sunyang. Ning Shu still planned to go to Shanghai to avoid the flow of refugees, but he didn't know what would happen this time. Oh haha! There were already many refugees in the small town. Some refugees even crossed the wall and ran to Ning Shu's house to rob. First, they ran to the kitchen to grab the leftovers and ate fiercely. Then they threatened Ning Shu, hand over the food at home. Ning Shu punched and kicked the robber, kicked him out of the yard, and closed the door. Ning Shu bought a ship ticket to Shanghai. Now a ship ticket actually cost 10 yuan. Ning Shu paid for it, and carried Zhu Siyuan onto the ship with the things in her arms. There were many people on the ship, and it was very crowded. Ning Shu sat in a corner with the child in his arms. He glanced around and saw that everyone's faces were filled with uneasiness and panic. The country was in turmoil, and the people were displaced. This war could be said to be the most serious foreign disaster in history. The prolonged destruction caused the land under their feet to be devastated. Zhu Siyuan was a little scared. Ning Shu patted his back to comfort him. When Ning Shu was hungry, he secretly ate some cornbread and stuffed a fasting pill into the child's mouth. The smell in the cabin was unbearable. The smell of smoke and stench mixed together was simply unbearable. The ship continued to stop, and more people squeezed onto the ship, making the environment on the ship even worse. Finally, a week later, they arrived at Huangpu Pier. Ning Shu carried the child off the ship and let out a long breath. They had finally arrived. Standing on the pier, Ning Shu felt that the wind blowing from the Huangpu River was indeed cold and damp. It was really good. He wondered if Zhu Yinxiu had frozen to death. Ning Shu didn't plan to find Zhu Yinxiu. He didn't want to wash clothes and cook for Zhu Yinxiu. Zhu Yinxiu would tell everyone that this was his sister. Sister, your sister. Ning Shu found a small hotel and simply cleaned up. The environment in the cabin was too dirty and bad. Zhu Siyuan had been listless the whole time. Ning Shu touched Zhu Siyuan's head. He had a fever. Ning Shu gave the child the fever medicine that he had exchanged before the mission. After taking the medicine, Zhu Siyuan fell into a deep sleep, sweating all over. Ning Shu used the kettle to mix hot water with cold water. He endured the cold and took a bath. Then, he wiped the sweat off the child's body. Now Ning Shu wanted to settle down. He planned to rent a house, and then find a job. Zhu Siyuan had reached the age where he should go to school. Ning Shu wanted Zhu Siyuan to receive a good education. More importantly, he wanted to cultivate Zhu Siyuan's will. Zhu Yinxiu was a cultured person, but the things she did were worse than pigs and dogs. In the end, she was successful and famous. How unreconciled. Moreover, he also had to work hard to start a new life for Zhu Sunyang. He had to live a glorious life in this chaotic world. Ningshu hugged Zhu Siyuan and slept soundly on the bed. He basically didn't close his eyes on the ship. He was very tired now. The next day, Ningshu wrapped Zhu Siyuan tightly. He went out of the hotel and began to look for a house. He bought soup dumplings for Zhu Siyuan. Zhu Siyuan ate happily. He stuffed the dumplings into Ningshu's mouth and said in a childish voice, Mommy eat too. Ningshu's heart was very warm. This was the second time she was a nanny. Thinking of this child being ignorant and incompetent in the future, Ningshu shook his head. He couldn't walk on that kind of path. Although he was angry at Zhu Yanxiu, that kind of behavior was also a kind of incompetence. Powerful people wouldn't use this kind of method to take revenge on others. Zhu Siyuan was Zhu Yanxiu's son. That was why Zhu Siyuan used this kind of method to take revenge on Zhu Yanxiu. In the end, Zhu Sunyang and Zhu Siyuan were too weak. Zhu Siyuan had Zhu Sunyang in his heart, so Zhu Sunyang wanted to take care of the child and live a good life. Shanghai was very prosperous. There were many shops. Beautiful dresses and gems were displayed in the windows. The sign of the disco hall was flashing with neon lights. The streets were full of traffic. Rickshaws came and went. Cable cars passed by on the street. The sound of bicycle bells mixed with the cries of newspaper sellers. This was a tolerant and modern city. Zhu Yanxiu didn't want to go back after coming here. Ningshu wanted to find a place to rent. He bought 2 newspapers from the newspaper seller and asked him where there was a place to rent a house. As a result, the newspaper seller took Ningshu to a tube-shaped apartment. There were all kinds of clothes hanging on the ceiling. It was like a pig cage village. There were so many people crowded together, eating and drinking in the small yard. Ningshu wanted to give Zhu Siyuan a better environment. He didn't gain anything for the day. After eating his fill outside, he returned to the hotel and paid for the room for the day. To understand a city, one had to read the city's newspaper. There was a lot of information in the newspaper. In short, too many things happened in Shanghai every day. It could be described as changing with each passing day. There were gangs, such as the Qing gang and the Hong gang, as well as renting places and patrolling houses. All kinds of forces mixed together, which made Shanghai burst with endless opportunities. Anything could happen here. This city was prosperous but also chaotic. Ningshu had to do his best to protect himself and his child. Ningshu saw in the newspaper that the hospital was recruiting nurses. He planned to give it a try. What could he eat if he didn't earn money? He only had a little money. Was he going to beg for money after using it up? Ningshu planned to walk the path of a doctor. He kissed Zhu Siyuan and said, "Baby, mother wants to be a doctor." Zhu Siyuan clapped his hands and repeated happily, "Doctor, doctor, doctor." Chapter 565. The next morning, Ningshu went to the hospital to apply for a job. Ningshu did not have much confidence when he went to the hospital with his child. When he arrived at the hospital, he was told that they only wanted young girls. It would be best if they graduated from a nursing school. When he saw Ningshu carrying his child and wearing a large cotton-padded jacket, he was tactfully told that he was not suitable. Ningshu sighed and said, "I know a little about nursing, and I know Chinese medicine. My ancestors were from a family of imperial physicians, but they have declined." Ningshu was talking nonsense to create a very powerful family background for himself. The interviewer just looked at Ningshu and said, "There is a special job, which is to be a battlefield doctor. They are training you now. Do you want to try?" Ningshu, this was going to be a battlefield. If she was unfortunately hit by a stray bullet and died on the battlefield, what would happen to Zhu Siyuan who was in her arms? Ningshu looked at the young girls with braids beside him. They were really beautiful. He really did not have any competition. Ningshu thought in his heart. Fang Feifei was a war reporter. She became a battlefield doctor. They would meet sooner or later. Ningshu looked at the ignorant Zhu Siyuan and asked, "Are there any benefits? If something happens to me on the battlefield, what will happen to my child? Also, I don't have a house to live in now. The country will take care of your child." You can rest assured. You have to sign the document, the interviewer said. Ning Shu frowned and said, I don't have a house to live in. Being a military doctor was basically a suicide mission. This was a high-risk job. Ning Shu had to apply for benefits. Moreover, after she died, the country might not be able to raise her child for her. The documents might also be useless. In the following period of time, the whole nation would be in a very chaotic situation. Who would remember a child? You will get a salary of 5 yuan a month, and a small suite assigned to you by the hospital. It will be enough for you and your child to live in, the interviewer said. At this time, a professor at Tsinghua University only earned 7 or 8 yuan a month. 5 yuan was indeed not a low salary. Ning Shu thought that she didn't have much money in her pocket. The room fee of a small hotel was very expensive. Even if it was to compete with Zhu Yanqiu and Fang Feifei, she had to take this job. I'm willing. Ning Shu nodded. The interviewers were very happy. No one was willing to become a military doctor in the entire morning. This was a job where one's head was tied to one's belt. One moment, they might be holding a scalpel, and the next moment, they might be hit by a bomb. The environment was very bad, and it was not as comfortable as a hospital. The interviewer also saw that Ning Shu was dressed like a country bumpkin, so he managed to convince Ning Shu to become an intern military doctor. Sign here. The man took out a document and pushed it in front of Ning Shu. Do you know how to write your name? Ning Shu picked up the pen and hesitated for a moment before signing Zhu Sunyang's name on the document. Very good. The man put away the document. Ning Shu hugged Zhu Siyuan and kissed her. Mother has become a doctor. Zhu Siyuan giggled. The hospital assigned a house to Ning Shu. The house was not big, and there were all kinds of furniture. It was very simple and not gorgeous at all. Ning Shu was very satisfied. Now there were many people living on the streets. Moreover, this house was under her name, so it could be considered her property. In the future, when the country developed rapidly, the housing price in Shanghai would be very expensive. It could be considered that Zhu Siyuan had accumulated a family property. They checked out of the room at the small hotel and carried their luggage to the new house. Ning Shu let Zhu Siyuan play by herself and cleaned all the corners of the house. Looking at the clean room, Ning Shu's heart was filled with indescribable joy. Her body even trembled slightly. This was Zhu Sunyang's emotion. She was so happy just to have an independent house of her own. She had her own house in Shanghai. Even Zhu Yanqiu did not have her own house in Shanghai. Next, Ning Shu began the military doctor training. Military doctors in the field could not treat diseases such as coronary heart disease and high blood pressure. But they had to be good at treating war injuries, such as trench foot burns, all kinds of penetrating wounds, lacerations, dysentery, and so on. As for medical conditions, they used whatever they had at hand. Without disinfection, anesthetics, or scalpels, they dared to amputate with a military knife or a fruit knife. They used the fastest and most violent way to save a soldier's life. Military doctors were soldiers first, and then doctors. They had to have a strong physique and be able to find survival items and medical equipment from the surrounding environment. They not only had to save people, but also protect their own safety. In short, it was a very dangerous job, and it was also a job that tested one's psychological quality. Listening to the fighting outside and the sound of gunfire, they had to be able to take the bullets out of the soldiers' bodies without shaking their hands. Ning Shu took the child to the training site. There were only 3 men who came to participate in the training. Including Ning Shu, there were 4 people in total. No wonder the interviewer accepted her, because she was a woman. Although the Japanese occupied the 3 northeastern provinces, Shanghai was still very prosperous, full of singing and dancing. Although every day there were newspaper sellers shouting that the 3 northeastern provinces had fallen under the Japanese's iron heel, most people did not realize the cruelty of the war. They did not have the consciousness and ambition to become a military doctor in the field with the army. When the 3 men saw Ning Shu holding a child, they showed sarcastic expressions, but they did not say anything excessive. A woman was very brave to be a military doctor in the field. The military doctor in the field taught Ning Shu and the other 3 how to bandage the soldiers' wounds and how to solve various problems. Ning Shu took a notebook and wrote it down carefully. These were all life-saving things. If he learned them well, he would have a better chance to survive on the battlefield. She did not have the good luck of Zhu Yanqiu and Fang Feifei, so she could only work hard by herself. There were also physical training courses, the most basic boxing and gun training. Ning Shu could not wait to pick up the gun. It was heavy and even very old-fashioned. It almost went off accidentally, but it was indeed a weapon with great lethality in this era. Ning Shu shot at the target, and the result was not bad. The military doctor's physical training was not a big deal for Ning Shu. After all, she had cultivated peerless martial arts. Although she had only cultivated a strand of qi energy the size of a strand of hair, the qi energy would slowly repair her body, making her physical fitness better and better. Her strength was even greater than 2 men. In terms of physical fitness, the other 3 men were not as good as Ning Shu. During fighting, Ning Shu could even defeat the 3 men. After a day of training, Ning Shu took Zhu Xiyuan home to cook and wash clothes. It was much easier than making tofu day and night in his hometown. He could also play with Zhu Xiyuan. Ning Shu bought some colorful picture books for Zhu Xiyuan. Zhu Xiyuan was speaking more and more clearly now. He could clearly express his intentions and feelings. Ning Shu felt a sense of pride as a parent again. Chapter 566. It had been a while since they arrived in Shanghai. Ning Shu didn't go to see Zhu Yanqiu. She spent her time every day either learning the basic knowledge of a military doctor, or slowly teaching Zhu Xiyuan how to read and count his fingers. Occasionally, she would go to the hospital to be an intern nurse to take care of patients. It was also an early attempt to adapt to the identity of a doctor. She lived a fulfilling life every day for herself, not to provide for Zhu Yanqiu. To be honest, Zhu Sunyang had never lived for herself. She was sold to the Zhu family as a child bride when she was young. Then, she took care of Zhu Yanqiu, who was younger than her every day. After the Zhu family fell, she worked hard to provide for Zhu Yanqiu's studies. When Zhu Yanqiu became successful and famous, she retired. Zhu Sunyang's role was to provide for Zhu Yanqiu until she died. How sad was that? And Zhu Yanqiu hadn't acknowledged her in his heart. Ning Shu put on a nurse's uniform, a hat on his head, and a mask covering half of his face. He walked into the ward and saw many students in Chinese tunic suits. There were also some female students. When Ning Shu saw this situation, she understood that these ambitious youths were holding banners and parading on the streets again. They had a conflict with the police in the patrol office and were beaten up. All of them had injuries on their bodies. However, Ning Shu saw an acquaintance. Ning Shu didn't expect that she and Zhu Yanqiu would meet in this way. As a patient and a doctor, Ning Shu glanced at Zhu Xiyuan, who was sitting obediently on a chair in the aisle and reading a book. "Child, come and see what your father looks like." Ning Shu walked over to Zhu Yanqiu and looked at Zhu Yanqiu. Zhu Yanqiu's face was white, and his eyebrows and eyes were square. He was very handsome in the Chinese tunic suit, and had the gentleness of a scholar. Compared to Zhu Sunyang's memory, Zhu Yanqiu's face was very young. Now he looked more mature. However, his face was bruised, the corner of his mouth was broken, and several buttons on his clothes were torn off. Ning Shu was about to speak when a female student walked over and said to Zhu Yanqiu, "Yanqiu, are you okay?" "Yanqiu." Such an intimate form of address. Ning Shu looked at the female student. She had short hair, fair skin, soft facial features and firm almond-shaped eyes. It was obvious that she had her own ideas. She looked at Zhu Yanqiu with worry in her eyes. "Is it very painful? You shouldn't have stood in front of me at that time." "It's okay. It's better for me to be injured than for you to be injured. It's okay. It's not very painful." Zhu Yanqiu comforted the female student softly. "Don't do this again. I'm worried." The female student pursed her lips. "I'll protect myself." Zhu Yanqiu took the female student's hand. "You're a girl, you can't beat them. They have guns and military sticks in their hands." Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and looked at the interaction between the two. This female student should be Fang Feifei. She was indeed beautiful and full of vitality. She was totally different from Zhu Sunyang. who carried a pole every day and sold tofu under the sun and wind. Fang Feifei had an intellectual and elegant temperament. The determination and stubbornness between her brows made people feel that there was a huge amount of energy hidden in her small body. Zhu Yanxiu didn't tell Fang Feifei that he already had a wife and a child. Ningxu coughed. Fang Feifei turned her head and saw Ningxu. She quickly said, "Nurse, quickly take a look at his injury." "Let me see." Ningxu turned Zhu Yanxiu's face left and right and said lightly, "It's okay. It's just a flesh wound. It'll be fine after applying some medicine." As Ningxu spoke, he opened the bottle cap and used a clip to pick up a small ball of cotton and dipped it in the medicine. Ningxu curled the corner of his mouth and pressed hard on the corner of Zhu Yanxiu's mouth. Zhu Yanxiu immediately screamed in pain and covered her mouth to breathe. Ningxu said unhappily, "Why are you moving? It'll definitely hurt a little to apply medicine." At this moment, Ningxu was wearing a mask, so Zhu Yanxiu couldn't tell that this black-hearted nurse was his wife. She only felt that this nurse's attitude was really bad. She pressed hard on the wound, and with the alcohol in the medicine, the wound hurt so much that it seemed to be torn again. "Yanxiu, bear with it." Fang Feifei comforted Zhu Yanxiu and said politely to Ningxu, "Nurse, let me apply medicine for him." Ningxu's voice was muffled through the mask. "No need. This is my job." Fang Feifei couldn't snatch things from him, so she could only watch from the side. Ningxu dipped the cotton ball in the medicine again and applied it on Zhu Yanxiu's face. He still used a lot of strength. Zhu Yanxiu was in so much pain that she kept breathing. In the end, she couldn't help but dodge the clip in Ningxu's hand. "Why are you dodging?" Ningxu said unhappily. Zhu Yanxiu felt that she had only met this kind of nurse after 8 lifetimes. She wasn't gentle at all. "Feifei, you go back first. It's getting dark." Zhu Yanxiu didn't want Fang Feifei to see her in such a sorry state. Fang Feifei took a look outside. It was getting dark, but when she saw Zhu Yanxiu's face, she said worriedly, "Your injury? It's okay. You go back first. It's not safe when it's dark." When Zhu Yanxiu spoke to Fang Feifei, her eyes were full of affection, and her voice was gentle. Ningxu looked at her gentle appearance and curled the corner of his mouth. His hand holding the clip was eager to try. In his memory, Zhu Yanxiu had never talked to Zhu Sunyang like this. She had always had a superior attitude, especially when she was young. She used Zhu Sunyang as a maid. Zhu Sunyang took care of all his meals and clothes. In summer, she had to fan him all night and drive away mosquitoes. It was not until Zhu Yanxiu and Zhu Yanxiu consummated their marriage that Zhu Yanxiu's attitude towards Zhu Sunyang became a little better. Now seeing Zhu Yanxiu's attitude towards Fang Feifei, Ningxu could only say that the gap between people was huge. No matter how much you did, others couldn't see it. Fang Feifei saw that Zhu Yanxiu insisted on letting her go, and her tone was full of worry for her. She nodded, smiled at Zhu Yanxiu with her white teeth, and then left. Zhu Yanxiu kept looking at Fang Feifei's back. The tenderness in her eyes could turn into water and pour out. Ningxu picked up a cotton ball and wiped Zhu Yanxiu's face. Zhu Yanxiu grimaced in pain and said with anger, "What's with your attitude? Can't you be gentler?" "No," Ningxu said lightly. "I'm already very gentle. Your wound hurts, but you blame me for using too much strength. You intellectuals are unreasonable." "Okay, you don't have to deal with it." Zhu Yanxiu pushed away Ningxu's hand. Especially when she saw the snow-white silver clip in Ningxu's hand. She felt that the wound was very painful. Ningxu didn't force her. He closed the medicine bottle and said, "Medical expenses." A trace of embarrassment flashed across Zhu Yanxiu's face. She felt up and down, but there was no money on her. Ningxu said, "Today's parade. I didn't bring any money." Ningxu looked at Zhu Yanxiu coldly. Zhu Yanxiu was a little embarrassed by Ningxu's stare. She took off the watch on her wrist and said with pride, "This is a German-Swiss mechanical watch. I'll leave it with you first. I'll come to pay the medical expenses tomorrow." Chapter 567. Zhu Yanxiu really had no money. His family hadn't sent him money for a long time. Now he rarely went out to play with Fang Feifei. They used to go to the movies when they were free. Now Zhu Yinxiu could only use studying to fool Fang Feifei. But Zhu Yinxiu was a smart person. He asked Fang Feifei to read books in the library. They sat by the window. The sunlight was hazy and beautiful through the window. Zhu Yinxiu took a pencil and drew Fang Feifei on the white paper. Occasionally, he would write a hazy and romantic love poem. On the basis of not wasting money, he tried his best to be romantic. Fortunately, Fang Feifei was a literary young woman. She liked this very much and didn't notice Zhu Yinxiu's financial difficulties at all. Now, Ning Xu asked Zhu Yinxiu for medical expenses. Zhu Yinxiu didn't have any money, so he could only say that he didn't have any money. He also pretended to give his watch to Ning Xu as collateral. Ning Xu raised his eyebrows and took the watch. The watch was still a bit heavy. It looked very delicate. The small hands were unique and didn't feel like it was made in a rough way. It didn't look cheap at all. How much is this? Ning Xu asked. Zhu Yinxiu looked complacent and said, 1,000 yuan. Is it enough for medical expenses? Ning Xu wanted to poke Zhu Yinxiu's face with a clip and poke his face. 1,000 yuan to buy a watch, haha. Now, 1 yuan could buy more than 170 kilograms of rice. An ordinary family of 3 could live for a year with 2 or 3 yuan. And 500 yuan could buy an ordinary house. What Zhu Yinxiu did was simply not something a human could do. He tired Zhu Sunyang to death. But Zhu Yinxiu wore such a luxury watch. Why do I want your watch? The medical expenses are less than 1/10,000th of this watch. I don't want the watch. I want money. Ning Xu threw the watch to Zhu Yinxiu. Zhu Yinxiu caught the watch in a panic and said, "This watch is very expensive. You can't afford to pay for it if it's broken." Medical expenses? Ning Xu said lightly. Don't tell me you don't have money. You're pretending to be poor. Wearing such an expensive watch, you don't have any money on you. I already said that I didn't bring any money with me today, Zhu Yinxiu said with a red face. Together with the injuries on her face was purple. Ning Xu looked at Zhu Yinxiu without saying anything. In the end, other students helped to pay for the medical expenses. Zhu Yinxiu immediately put the watch on her wrist and thanked the student, saying that she would pay him back in the future. Zhu Yinxiu walked out of the ward and saw Zhu Siyuan sitting on the chair and reading. He looked very serious. She squatted in front of Zhu Siyuan and asked, "Little friend, why are you here alone? What's your name?" Ning Xu was packing up when he saw Zhu Yinxiu and Zhu Siyuan talking. His heart skipped a beat. He was about to take the child away when he heard Zhu Siyuan say to Zhu Yinxiu, "You're so ugly." Zhu Siyuan's voice was childish, but his expression was very serious. After arriving in Shanghai, Ning Xu dressed Zhu Siyuan up nicely. Zhu Siyuan was white and tender. Now that he said that Zhu Siyuan was ugly with a serious face, it was simply ridiculous. Zhu Yinxiu's current image was indeed a little bad. Her face was bruised and purple, and she had also applied medicine. Her face was simply unbearable to look at. Zhu Yinxiu was embarrassed and a little angry when a child said that. "Children are so rude," Zhu Yinxiu said, then turned and left. This was the first time the father and son met, and they parted on bad terms. In fact, the father and son's birth characters were not harmonious. Ning Xu handed the child to a familiar nurse and said to Zhu Siyuan, "Siyuan, wait for mother here obediently. Mother will be back soon." Zhu Siyuan nodded obediently and said, Ning Xu took off the nurse's uniform, took off the mask, and followed Zhu Yinxiu out of the hospital. At this time, the sky had begun to darken. Zhu Yinxiu, who was walking in front, did not notice that someone was following her. When they passed by a small alley, Ning Xu took off his coat and quickly ran to Zhu Yinxiu's side. He covered his head with the coat and dragged him into the alley. Zhu Yinxiu was walking when she saw darkness in front of her, and then she was dragged away. Zhu Yinxiu was shocked and struggled violently. However, the other party was so strong that she could not break free. Ning Xu beat Zhu Yinxiu fiercely. He kicked and punched Zhu Yinxiu's face. Zhu Yinxiu was already injured, and he was beaten by Ning Xu until he screamed. "You are." Zhu Yinxiu wanted to speak, and wanted to take off the clothes on his head, but a fist hit his face, followed by a kick to his stomach. Zhu Yinxiu vomited. Ning Xu punched his liver with his left hook, and swept Zhu Yanqiu's lower body with a spinning kick. Zhu Yanqiu fell to the ground with a bang, and could not get up for a long time. Ning Shu leaned over, and took off the watch on Zhu Yanqiu's wrist. Then he took off his clothes, leaving him only a pair of underpants. Zhu Yanqiu had been beaten by Ning Shu until he could not fight back. His bones were broken, and his eyes were swollen and could not open. His clothes were taken off by someone else. Zhu Yanqiu's heart was filled with fear. Was he raped by a man? Ning Shu was very strong. Zhu Yanqiu believed that the person who beat him was a man. Ning Shu looked at Zhu Yanqiu, who was as white as a cut chicken, and his heart was filled with killing intent. He might as well kill him. This kind of person's death was not worth pitying. Moreover, with Zhu Yanqiu's luck, he would become rich in the end. With tens of thousands of people under him, she would not be able to defeat him. Ning Shu reached out and grabbed Zhu Yanqiu's neck very hard. Zhu Yanqiu struggled violently. She pulled away Ning Shu's hand that was on her neck and shouted with a hoarse voice, help me." Until now, Zhu Yanqiu had not seen what the other party looked like. Her lungs were burning with pain, as if they were about to explode. Let go." Ning Shu used more strength. At this time, footsteps and the sound of people talking came from not far away in the alley. It was probably the patrol officers patrolling. Ning Shu gritted his teeth. Zhu Yanqiu was really lucky. Ning Shu let go of Zhu Yanqiu's neck. He clenched his hand into a fist and punched Zhu Yanqiu's heart. Zhu Yanqiu spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground softly. He coughed violently and choked on the blood in his mouth. Ning Shu put it over Zhu Yanqiu's head, turned around and ran away. The patrol officers used their flashlights to see Zhu Yanqiu, who was naked and unconscious on the ground. Ning Shu put the things he took from Zhu Yanqiu in a bag, and then returned to the hospital to pick up Zhu Siyuan. Ning Shu did not stay in the hospital, and went back with Zhu Siyuan on his back. Zhu Siyuan lay on Ning Shu's back. Ning Shu asked, "Mother, what is an impolite child?" Ning Shu said indifferently, "Mother, Siyuan is a polite child. It's just that Siyuan told the truth, and made that petty person unhappy." "Mother, that person is really ugly and annoying," Zhu Siyuan said. Chapter 568. Ning Shu went to the cake shop and bought a small cake for Zhu Siyuan. Today was Zhu Siyuan's third birthday. Soon, Zhu Siyuan would go to school. Ning Shu hoped to make arrangements for Zhu Siyuan before going to the battlefield. In fact, Ning Shu wanted to take Zhu Siyuan with him, but she was a military doctor. Taking care of a child like Zhu Siyuan could easily cause problems. If the environment was too bad, the child would get sick. Fortunately, they were only training reserve military doctors now. They were not in a hurry to send her to the battlefield. There were still a few years before the all-out war against Japan. She still had a lot of time to be with Zhu Siyuan. Going to the battlefield was destined, and she had signed the document. If she went back on her words, she would probably end up miserable. In troubled times, human lives were the most worthless. Ning Shu's biggest wish was to protect himself and Zhu Siyuan. At the same time, he would train Zhu Siyuan and not let him become a playboy. Back home, Ning Shu put the candles on the cake and said to Zhu Siyuan, "Siyuan, make a wish on the cake." "What is a wish?" Zhu Siyuan looked confused. Ning Shu asked again, "What does Siyuan want to do the most?" "Siyuan and mother always be together," Zhu Siyuan said. Oh, this was so heartwarming. Ning Shu and Zhu Siyuan blew out the candles and cut the cake. The mother and son ate the cake. After washing Zhu Siyuan's hands and feet, Ning Shu told a story to Zhu Siyuan, who was lying on the bed. Seeing that Zhu Siyuan had fallen asleep, Ning Shu touched Zhu Siyuan's head and sighed in his heart. Zhu Siyuan was a child neglected by his parents. Needless to say, his father did not know him, so he knew nothing about Zhu Siyuan. On the other hand, Zhu Sunyang worked hard all day, working day and night to earn money. It was inevitable that she would neglect Zhu Siyuan. Later on, when her personality became like that, how could she not feel stifled in her heart? How could she not be looking forward to going against her own father like that? A child who lacked love. After Zhu Siyuan fell asleep, Ning Shu took out Zhu Yanqiu's things from the bag. There was a sweater, a school uniform, a watch that cost 1,000 yuan, and a pen. Ning Shu saw that the pen was very well made. There were even engravings on it. The words Yinxiu were engraved on it. Ning Shu took out a dagger and scratched out the engravings. Then he turned the Chinese tunic uniform over and over again and found that Zhu Yinxiu's name was embroidered on the collar. Ning Shu picked up the thread that embroidered the name with a needle. There was dirt on the clothes, so Ning Shu washed them. When the clothes were dry, Ning Shu packed everything and took it to the pawnshop to pawn the clothes, pen and watch. Originally, a watch that cost 1,000 renminbi could only be sold for 500 renminbi. But Ning Shu was not happy. The watch looked like it was still 90% new. In the end, they bargained for 650 renminbi, and the deal was made. After pawning off the pen and clothes, there were more than 10 yuan, which was not a small sum. Sure enough, it was a robbery. The things that Zhu Yinxiu bought had emptied the Zhu family's pockets. After getting more than 600 renminbi, Ning Shu felt that he could be considered a rich man. With money, Ning Shu consciously began to store food. The prices in this era were not stable at all. Ning Shu did not want to waste the money in his hands. Ning Shu took the money and bought another house in some wasteland. The wasteland was very cheap. Although Shanghai was prosperous now, some places had not yet been developed. Thinking of the price of housing in the future, Ning Shu consciously stored up land. However, he only dared to buy small pieces of land, and it was far away from the prosperous areas now. Besides, he could not afford to buy large pieces of land. After the mission was completed, he would leave the world. Ning Shu hoped that Zhu Sunyang and Zhu Siyuan could live more comfortably. After the training, Ning Shu went to the hospital for an internship. Zhu Yinxiu, who was beaten to death by Ning Shu, was sent to the hospital. Looking at Zhu Yinxiu lying on the bed like a pig's head, Ning Shu could only say that the scourge lived for 1,000 years. When he wanted to kill Zhu Yinxiu, the patrolman appeared. Ning Shu was very disappointed. He really wanted to kill Zhu Yinxiu 100 times. Fang Feifei sat by the bed with tears in her eyes. She looked angry and asked Zhu Yinxiu, "Who did it? He is too arrogant." Zhu Yinxiu's throat was so painful that he could not speak. His neck, which was broken by the mysterious person, seemed to be broken. Zhu Yinxiu did not know who he had offended. Not only did the mysterious person rob him, but also wanted to kill him. Zhu Yinxiu now had goosebumps all over his body when he thought about it. The mysterious person really wanted to kill him with a strong murderous intent. Now Zhu Yinxiu was both mentally and physically exhausted. Now he was injured like this, and had no money to stay in the hospital. He sent a telegram home, but his family did not reply to him. Zhu Yinxiu guessed that something had happened. He planned to go home, but now he was beaten so badly that he could not move. His head was dizzy, and he always felt nauseous. His heart ached as if it had been punched by someone. The doctor said that he had a concussion and a slight fracture of his leg bone. "Tell me you were fine before," Fang Feifei asked anxiously. Her almond-shaped eyes were wide open, and she looked indignant. Zhu Yinxiu wanted to say something, but he could not. Ning Shu walked over, looked at Zhu Yinxiu and said in surprise, "How did you become like this? It was not so serious before." Zhu Yinxiu tried to open his eyes a little. When he saw Ning Shu wearing a mask, he suddenly felt pain all over his body. Could it be that the black-hearted nurse had applied medicine to him? The nurse who had applied medicine to him before was much gentler than this nurse. Zhu Yinxiu really wanted to tell Ning Shu to get out. Get out, get out. Ning Shu took a pair of tongs, picked up a cotton ball, dipped it in medicine, and planned to apply it to Zhu Yinxiu's wound. Zhu Yinxiu tried hard to avoid it. Ning Shu said angrily, "Why are you dodging?" Then Ning Shu applied medicine to Zhu Yinxiu, but this time he did not use much strength. Ning Shu did not want him to faint. There would be more miserable things waiting for Zhu Yinxiu later. He applied medicine to Zhu Yinxiu's swollen face. This face was so swollen that it really took a lot of medicine. The doctor said that you still need to stay in the hospital. Now go and pay the medical fees. All the fees add up to about 5 yuan. Ning Shu said lightly. When Zhu Yinxiu heard 5 yuan, his face turned red. He was angry and anxious. Not to mention 5 yuan. He did not even have 1 yuan. Now he was so seriously injured. This was the first time in his life. Zhu Yanxiu was afraid that he would be disfigured. His leg was broken. Zhu Yanxiu was afraid that he would be crippled. Now he could not be driven out of the hospital. This was the first time Zhu Yanxiu thought of Zhu Sunyang. If Zhu Sunyang was here, she would definitely try to raise money for him. Ning Shu looked at Fang Feifei and said, "You are his girlfriend, right? It is not convenient for him to pay the fees now. Go and help him pay the fees." Fang Feifei was stunned. She pursed her lips and did not speak. "Feifei, all my money has been robbed." Zhu Yanxiu tried hard to say. His voice was hoarse and unpleasant. "Nonsense. You don't have a single yuan. Rob your sister." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Chapter 569. $5 was a huge sum. Fang Feifei hesitated. Hearing Zhu Yanxiu's explanation, Fang Feifei felt helpless. "Feifei, I don't know who stole my money. I'll return it to you when I recover." Zhu Yanxiu could only be thick-skinned and ask Fang Feifei again. Zhu Yanxiu's voice contained suppressed awkwardness. In this situation, it was indeed quite awkward for Zhu Yanxiu to borrow money from Fang Feifei, especially since they were still a couple. When it came to money, she felt awkward and felt that it had tarnished her pure feelings. Now, Zhu Yanxiu and Fang Feifei were still in a relationship. They had not experienced life and death battles together. At most, they had a good impression of each other and were in the budding stage of their relationship. Zhu Yanxiu's request to borrow money made Fang Feifei feel strange. If it were any other girl, she would feel a little uncomfortable if her boyfriend wanted to borrow money from her. Her boyfriend, who should have been successful in everything, wanted to borrow money from her. She would feel that her boyfriend was useless. Ning Shu, who was watching from the side, said to Fang Feifei, "He is indeed seriously injured. If he is not treated, there may be a mark on his face. His leg is fractured. If he is not treated, there may be a permanent injury. There is also a concussion. This is the most serious. Are you sure you don't want to treat him?" Zhu Yanxiu could only stare at Fang Feifei with great effort. Seeing that Zhu Yanxiu and the nurse were staring at her, Fang Feifei could only nod and say to Zhu Yanxiu, "You don't have to worry about money. Just take care of yourself." Zhu Yanxiu let out a long sigh and reached out to grab Fang Feifei's hand. She said in a hoarse voice, "Feifei, thank you." Fang Feifei pushed Zhu Yanxiu's hand away and said, "I'm going to pay." Zhu Yanxiu's hand stopped awkwardly in the air, and then she retracted her hand as if nothing had happened. Seeing that the black-hearted nurse was still looking at her, she closed her eyes and ignored Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't care about Zhu Yanxiu's disdain for him at all. He asked dutifully, "How do you feel now? Does your head still hurt? Do you still want to vomit?" Zhu Yanxiu didn't even open her eyes. Her tone was very bad. "As long as you're not here, I won't feel like vomiting." When Zhu Yanxiu spoke, she used a bit of force, causing the choking marks on his neck to become obvious. He looked very miserable. Ning Shu laughed wildly in his heart. "Serves you right." Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhu Yanxiu. "Why don't I just kill him now? I can use the reason that the treatment is ineffective." Now, Zhu Yanxiu can be said to be alone. The Zhu family no longer exists, and his parents are dead. As for her, this child bride, Ning Shu has never seen Zhu Yanxiu as a husband. Ning Shu reached for the hidden weapon at his waist. He might as well kill him with the thick needle. "Why are you still here?" Zhu Yanxiu opened her swollen eyes. "I don't need you now. Please leave." Ning Shu suppressed the killing intent in his heart and said indifferently, "I'm going to check your body and wipe it." Zhu Yanxiu was very impatient. This nurse was really annoying. She didn't know why, but when she saw this nurse, Zhu Yanxiu had an inexplicable anger in her heart. Ning Shu only wanted to kill Zhu Yanxiu now. He walked towards Zhu Yanxiu with the hidden weapon in his hand. Zhu Yanxiu saw that the nurse didn't leave, but approached her instead. She frowned and pulled the wound on her face. She gasped in pain. "What's wrong with you?" Ning Shu reached out and wanted to tidy up the quilt for Zhu Yanxiu. He held the hidden weapon between his fingers and wanted to stab Zhu Yanxiu's heart. However, a huge elastic force suddenly gushed out of her body, almost ejecting her soul out of Zhu Sunya's body. Ning Shu staggered twice and steadied himself. Cold sweat broke out on his body. Yanqiu, I've already paid the fee. Coincidentally, Fang Feifei came in at this time. She glanced at Ning Shu and sat on the chair beside the bed. She said, "You can rest well." Fang Feifei smiled sweetly, and her voice was crisp. "Thank you." Zhu Yanqiu's voice was full of tenderness. Ning Shu turned around and walked out of the ward. She didn't want to see the two of them being lovey-dovey. She wiped the cold sweat off her forehead and leaned against the wall weakly. She could only sigh in her heart. Ning Shu could only sigh. The situation just now was because of Zhu Xinya's resistance. Zhu Xinya didn't want him to kill Zhu Yanqiu. Zhu Xinyu couldn't do such a thing as killing her husband, nor did she want to bear the crime of killing her husband. Zhu Xinyu was a timid and humble woman who grew up under the feudal doctrine. She didn't dare to do such a rebellious thing. She was sold to the Zhu family since she was young. The servile nature in her bones was very strong. Zhu Xinyu was a timid and kind person. Zhu Xinyu couldn't bear to stain her hands with blood, and it was her husband's blood. No matter what, Zhu Yanqiu was her husband. Ning Shu could only smile and chuckle. As long as you're happy. Since Zhu Xinya didn't want Zhu Yanqiu to die, then let him live. But it wasn't so easy for Zhu Yanqiu to become successful now. Ning Shu glanced into the ward. Fang Feifei was taking care of Zhu Yanqiu, whose face was swollen like a pig's head. After taking off the nurse's uniform, Ning Shu took Zhu Xiyuan home. Zhu Xiyuan asked Ning Shu, "Mother, why don't I have a father?" Zhu Xiyuan often followed Ning Shu in and out of the hospital. Many people in the hospital knew Zhu Xiyuan. Some gossipy people asked Zhu Xiyuan who his father was. Zhu Xiyuan was usually at a loss. Ning Shu heard this and said, "Xiyuan, you have a father. Your father is dead." Zhu Xiyuan. Ning Shu said, "Your father died and was buried in the ground, just like your grandmother." Zhu Xiyuan looked a little depressed. "Mother, I've never seen my father." "It's okay. I don't know if there's a picture of your father at home. I'll look for it and let you see your father," Ning Shu said indifferently. Zhu Xiyuan nodded and lay on Ning Shu's back. Ning Shu knew that as a single woman with a child, there would always be rumors. But these people actually asked Zhu Xiyuan, which made Ning Shu feel very uncomfortable. The child didn't know anything. She couldn't let the child be in such a disadvantageous environment. It would affect Zhu Xiyuan's mentality. Ning Shu hated Zhu Yanqiu very much. Since she couldn't kill Zhu Yanqiu, she would cripple him. He had good arms and legs, but he couldn't do delicate things. Zhu Yanqiu was someone who could kill enemies with a gun in the future. Haha, in this era of ups and downs, even without Zhu Yanqiu, there would still be people who would rise. This era didn't lack national heroes. Without Zhu Yanqiu, there would still be thousands of heroes. For Zhu Yanqiu to reach that step in the end, she had great luck on her body. But Ning Shu didn't want Zhu Yanqiu to be successful and have both power and beauty. Zhu Yanqiu forgot the tears of a woman. Zhu Yanqiu didn't have any gratitude or pity for Zhu Xunyang. He even treated Zhu Xunyang as a disgrace. How could a person who had received a new education have a child bride? Fang Feifei was his wife in this life. Chapter 570. In the past few days, Zhu Xiyuan's mood had not been very good. Obviously, it was because of his father. Ning Shu saw this and did not say anything. After the military medical course, Ning Shu went to the hospital. He glanced at the head nurse next to him and walked over to pour a glass of water. "Head nurse, are you busy?" The head nurse was a woman in her 40s. Her attitude towards Ning Shu was very cold. "I'm not busy. Head nurse, I heard that your son is studying in university and has a bright future." Ning Shu said calmly, "My child is still so young. The world is so chaotic now. I don't even know what to do in the future." Children were the best way to shorten the distance between women. The old nurse's face showed sympathy, and her tone was gossipy. "It's really hard for a woman to raise a child. Where's the child's father?" Ning Shu's eyes turned red immediately. She said, "My husband went to study, but I haven't heard from him for a long time. I suspect that he's already dead. In addition, my hometown is too chaotic, so I brought my child to Shanghai to avoid the chaos and find the child's father." Ning Shu recounted her life story again. She made it sound as miserable as she could. The head nurse comforted Ning Shu. Then, Zhu Xiyuan's pitiful life story spread among the doctors and nurses. The curious people did not ask about Zhu Xiyuan's father. Sometimes, when they saw Zhu Xiyuan, they would even give him some worthless things. Ning Shu didn't want Zhu Yanqiu to know about her and her mother for the time being. If she knew, she wouldn't know what she would do. She might even drive them out of Shanghai. Ning Shu wanted to learn nursing knowledge now and make a name for herself on the battlefield. As for Zhu Yanqiu, didn't she look down on Zhu Sunyang? Ning Shu wanted Zhu Sunyang to become someone who was respected. Ning Shu carried the basin into the ward and asked Zhu Yanqiu, "How do you feel today?" Zhu Yanqiu opened her eyes and saw Ning Shu. Her expression immediately turned bad. "Much better." Ning Shu put down the basin and tidied up the blanket for Zhu Yanqiu. He squeezed the handkerchief and began to wipe Zhu Yanqiu's face and hands. Zhu Yanqiu saw that Ning Shu was gentle. She glanced at the mask on Ning Shu's face. "Why are you always wearing a mask?" Zhu Yanqiu sized up Ning Shu from left to right. She felt that this person was somewhat familiar, but she could not recall where she had seen him before. Zhu Yanqiu didn't even think about Zhu Sunyang. He believed that Zhu Sunyang knew how to make tofu, but Zhu Sunyang became a nurse. Zhu Yanqiu only had 2 words: impossible. Besides, Zhu Sunyang should be in her hometown now, not in Shanghai. But thinking of Zhu Sunyang, Zhu Yanqiu's heart was full of anger. Now Zhu Sunyang didn't send him a telegram, or send him money. He sent a telegram home, but no one replied to him. Zhu Yanqiu had already decided that she would make a trip home after she recovered. Could it be that something had really happened at home? And she had no money on her, so she had to go home to get money. Ning Shu didn't say anything. He wiped Zhu Yanqiu's arm with a warm and wet handkerchief. When the handkerchief wiped her wrist, Zhu Yanqiu suddenly felt an extremely sharp pain. She quickly withdrew her hand and looked at her wrist. There was no injury, but she didn't know why it hurt. "What did you do?" Zhu Yanqiu roared angrily at Ning Shu. She turned her wrist over and over again. There was no wound and no bleeding, but she felt a sharp pain. Ning Shu looked at Zhu Yanqiu with a puzzled look and said speechlessly, "Did you really break your head? What did I do?" Zhu Yanqiu frowned tightly. Ning Shu said, "I don't want you to wipe it for me. I want to change the nurse." Ning Shu picked up Zhu Yanqiu's other hand and wiped it. "Now the hospital is short of manpower. I'll wipe this hand for you and leave. Next time you want a nurse to take care of you, just ask the nurse to take care of you. I've never seen a man like you, making a fuss over a little thing." Ouch. Zhu Yanqiu shook off Ning Shu's hand and felt that her wrist was really painful. The place where the nurse had wiped was very painful. A sharp pain ran through her skin. It was very painful. Ning Shu looked at Zhu Yanqiu with an extremely disgusted look. He threw the handkerchief into the basin and left with the basin. Before leaving, he muttered, "You really think you are a young master? Wiping your hand hurts. Why don't you go to heaven?" Zhu Yanqiu was so angry that her face turned blue. She shook her hand and felt that her wrist was very painful. The pain also ran to her fingertips, making her hand very swollen and painful. Ning Shu walked out of the ward and bumped into Fang Feifei, who had come to visit Zhu Yanqiu. Fang Feifei was wearing a long woolen gown and a red scarf around her neck, which made her complexion look extremely good. Ning Shu glanced at her and brushed past her. Fang Feifei turned around and called out to Ning Shu, "Nurse, wait a minute." Ning Shu held the basin and looked at Fang Feifei. Fang Feifei hesitated for a moment. Ning Shu asked, "Yanqiu, how long does that patient need to recover?" Ning Shu said very perfunctorily, "It depends on the patient's recovery. It's hard to say." Fang Feifei frowned and then asked directly, "How much does it cost when the patient is discharged from the hospital?" Ning Shu was stunned when he heard this. He glanced at Fang Feifei's beautiful face. Does Fang Feifei not want to pay for Zhu Yanqiu's medical expenses? "I'm not sure. We'll listen to the doctor. But it takes 100 days to heal the bones and meridians. His injury can't be healed in a day or two. He needs to rest well," Ning Shu said. He rolled his eyes and then said in a gossipy manner, "I heard that he is a young master of a big family and doesn't lack medical expenses." Fang Feifei glanced at Ning Shu. "How do you know that he is a young master of a big family?" He wears a German watch worth 1,000 yuan. If he is not a young master, then what is he? But I don't think he has much money. Last time when you were beaten to the hospital because of the demonstration, he couldn't afford the medical expenses. Ning Shu was very gossipy, which made Fang Feifei's expression a little bad. She said a few perfunctory words to Ning Shu, and then turned to enter the ward. Ning Shu sneered. Zhu Yanxiu is spending Zhu Sunyang's hard-earned money. You are spending Zhu Sunyang's money for dating and activities. Now you can't stand it when you have to pay 5 yuan. Every time Zhu Sunyang sent money, it was 20 yuan. 20 yuan. How many tofu could she sell to get so much money? Fang Feifei's family condition was not bad. Otherwise, her parents would not send a girl like Fang Feifei to school. But they were not rich. Otherwise, Fang Feifei would not be so distressed when she had to pay 5 yuan. Zhu Yanxiu was very generous in front of Fang Feifei. With Zhu Yanxiu's temperament, it was obvious that she was not short of money. Zhu Yanxiu never talked about her family in front of Fang Feifei. She hid that she had a wife and a child from Fang Feifei. Zhu Yanxiu's mentality was to hide it as long as she could. She wanted to spend more time with her beloved. Chapter 571. Outside the ward. Fang Feifei heard Ning Shu say that Zhu Yanxiu didn't have money to pay the medical fees before. So she stood at the door of the ward for a while, tidied up her clothes, and then walked in. Zhu Yanxiu called the doctor because of the pain in his wrist, and even his fingers were swollen. The doctor saw that there was no injury or swelling on his hand, so he could only say that his body was reducing inflammation, and it was normal for him to feel pain. Fang Feifei walked over and saw Zhu Yanxiu staring at his hand. She asked, "Yanxiu, what are you looking at?" Zhu Yanxiu saw that Fang Feifei was here, so he stopped worrying about his wrist. The sharp pain seemed to have dissipated. He looked at Fang Feifei softly and said, "You're here." Fang Feifei nodded and poured a glass of water for Zhu Yanxiu. She thought for a while and said, "Yanxiu, you're seriously injured. Why don't you inform your family to come and see you?" Zhu Yanxiu was drinking water. Hearing this, he choked and said quickly, "No need." Fang Feifei asked in surprise, "Why? You're seriously injured. It's best to inform your family." Zhu Yanxiu definitely wouldn't inform his family. If he did, his mother probably wouldn't come. At that time, Zhu Sunyang would definitely come to see him. What if Zhu Sunyang bumped into Fang Feifei? If Zhu Sunyang leaked something, Fang Feifei would leave him. My mother is old and the journey is so long. She can't take it by ship. If I tell her that I'm injured, it will only make her worry. I can't tell my family about this. Zhu Yanxiu explained to Fang Feifei and took her hand. When the holidays come, I want to take you home. Fang Feifei said angrily, "Who wants to go home with you? By the way, I still don't know the situation of your family." Zhu Yanxiu looked gloomy and told Fang Feifei about his family situation. My father was a scholar in the late Qing dynasty. He didn't become an official and started a business, but he has passed away. Now the family is supported by my mother alone, so I can't tell her about my injury. She can't leave the family business and can't come to see me. She can only worry in her heart. Zhu Yanxiu directly ignored Zhu Sunyang and Zhu Siyuan. He didn't dare to tell the truth and say that the Zhu family was already in dire straits. Fang Feifei nodded with a smile and said, "That's good. Don't make her anxious." Ning Shu naturally didn't know what Zhu Yanxiu said. He walked into the ward with the bill and said directly to Fang Feifei, "Please pay the bill." The doctor said that the patient needs to stay in the hospital for observation for a while. Fang Feifei frowned. Ning Shu asked, "How much?" $2. Ning Shu said. "It's mainly because the anti-inflammatory medicine used by the patient is more expensive. Pay the fee." After Ning Shu finished speaking, the ward quieted down. There was an awkward atmosphere. Ning Shu didn't say anything. He just looked at the two of them. In the end, it was Zhu Yanxiu who spoke first. "Feifei, can you pay for me first? When I'm better, I'll inform my mother to send me the money." Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "Your mother is no longer around. It's more like you're looking for a psychic." Fang Feifei said, "I paid $5 before. I don't have much money left. It's not enough for $2. Let me go back and borrow from my classmates." Can you give me a few more days? Fang Feifei said to Ning Shu. I don't have enough money. Ning Shu saw Fang Feifei holding her small bag of jacquard lace tightly. He felt that Fang Feifei should have $2, but she didn't want to take it out. Ning Shu raised the corner of his mouth. You have to ask the doctor. I can't make the decision. If you can't pay, the patient can only be discharged. Zhu Yinxiu really felt what it meant to be poor. She couldn't help but resent Zhu Sunyang in her heart. If Zhu Sunyang sent her money, she wouldn't be in such an embarrassing situation. Zhu Yinxiu was so embarrassed that his back was sweating. He felt that the wound on his body was even more painful, but he still had to pretend to be calm. He said to Fang Feifei, Feifei, go and borrow money. I'll pay it back. Fang Feifei nodded and said to Zhu Yinxiu, I'll go back to school and borrow money from my classmates. Fang Feifei said to Ning Shu, please give me a few more days. Fang Feifei turned and left after she finished speaking. Zhu Yinxiu exhaled heavily. He had never felt so difficult. It was true that a penny stumped a hero. He had never worried about money before. When he ran out of money, he would send a telegram home. But recently, the telegrams he sent out were like stones sinking into the sea. He hadn't received money from his family for more than half a year. Fortunately, he had some money before to support his basic necessities. But now he had no money. Zhu Yinxiu didn't know what to do after he was discharged from the hospital. Where could he get money from? Zhu Yinxiu rubbed his molars. He had to go home. What happened at home? Why didn't they send him money? Every time he asked Fang Feifei for money, Zhu Yinxiu felt very uncomfortable. He didn't want their relationship to change because of money. Money. Zhu Yinxiu's heart was full of resentment towards Zhu Sunyang. Ning Shu saw all kinds of emotions on Zhu Yinxiu's face, such as resentment, suffering, embarrassment and uneasiness. He laughed in his heart. I'll let you feel the bitterness of a poor young master. Zhu Sunyang was the only one suffering. Zhu Yinxiu and his mother didn't suffer any hardship at all. Zhu Sunyang was also stupid. She gave money to Zhu Yinxiu stupidly when he asked for money. At first, Zhu Yinxiu would make up all kinds of reasons to ask for money. Later, he didn't even bother to make up reasons, and directly said that he had no money. They were all spoiled, so men couldn't be spoiled. The more they were spoiled, the more bastards they would be. Zhu Yinxiu was already depressed in his heart. Seeing this black-hearted nurse standing there, and looking at him like a wooden stake, Zhu Yinxiu was so angry that he couldn't help but choke. Why are you still standing here? I don't want you to take care of me. Get out of my sight. Zhu Yinxiu roared in his heart. Ning Shu, what was this? Looking at Zhu Yinxiu's current appearance, he was no different from a cornered dog jumping over a wall. Ning Shu said lightly, I'm staying here now waiting to pack your things. Pack what things? Zhu Yinxiu frowned and asked. I think you should be discharged from the hospital soon. You may not be able to pay the 2 yuan fee. Ning Shu's tone was firm. Zhu Yinxiu felt cold in his heart and said, I haven't recovered yet. How can I be discharged from the hospital? Besides, my girlfriend will definitely borrow the money. Zhu Yinxiu felt that he was looked down upon. He was especially angry and unwilling. At the same time, he was uneasy. He couldn't guarantee that Fang Feifei could borrow the money. Would he be driven out of the hospital with his tail between his legs? Zhu Yinxiu hated the person who robbed him that night even more. He was only left with his underwear. Zhu Yinxiu especially felt sorry for his German watch, which was the most expensive thing he had. It was his glory. Chapter 572. Ning Shu originally thought that Fang Feifei would not be able to borrow the money, but he did not expect that Fang Feifei would have enough money the next day. She had borrowed the money from her classmates, and she even signed an IOU. Knowing that she could continue to receive treatment, Zhu Yinxiu let out a sigh of relief. When she saw Ning Shu, she puffed out her chest and said proudly, Who said that I would leave the hospital soon? My girlfriend is very popular in school. She won't leave me. Ning Shu, what are you showing off for? You said it as if you don't need to pay back the money. When the time comes, how can you pay back the money? You will definitely lose face. You'd better go to Huangpu Wharf to unload the goods. Fang Feifei borrowed the money because she was not willing to pay the 2 yuan. It was not good to be involved in money disputes between boyfriends and girlfriends. When the time comes, these classmates would ask Zhu Yinxiu for money. Fang Feifei would come to the hospital to take care of Zhu Yinxiu every day when she had no classes. Her attitude was quite considerate, which made Zhu Yinxiu feel very happy. Ning Shu rarely went to Zhu Yinxiu now. He spent more time learning military medical knowledge and constantly strengthening his body. Otherwise, he would not be able to run for his life when he was in a war. Practicing fighting skills and shooting skills was to increase the chance of survival. The chaos soon would last for too long. Ning Shu had to ensure his own life until the mission was completed. Ning Shu completed all the training programs meticulously. Because of the peerless martial arts, Ning Shu was very strong. When he ran with weights, the sandbag on his body was heavier than the other 3 men. In addition, Ning Shu had money now, so he would not treat himself badly. The food was very good, and his body was not as weak as before. In the blink of an eye, it had been almost a year since they came to Shanghai. Zhu Siyuan had reached the age to go to school. Ning Shu sent Zhu Siyuan to school. Zhu Siyuan had never left Ning Shu's side. He hugged Ning Shu's leg at the school gate and cried loudly. He cried and shouted for his mother not to leave him. Ning Shu comforted him, saying that his mother wouldn't abandon Siyuan, and that it was time for Siyuan to go to school. There were many friends there. Zhu Siyuan was a child without any sense of security. He didn't have a father in his life. When he could remember, he only had hatred for his father. He only remembered how heartless his father's mother was. When Zhu Siyuan finished school, Ning Shu was waiting for him at the entrance of the school to take him home. Every time Zhu Siyuan saw Ning Shu, he would throw himself into Ning Shu's arms. On the way home, Ning Shu would ask Zhu Siyuan what he had learned today and which kid he had played well with in class. Zhu Siyuan would tell Ning Shu everything. He was no longer as resistant to going to school as before. He also had good friends in school. Occasionally, she would fight with her classmates and complain to Ning Shu while crying. The current Zhu Si was far more lively than her lonely self from before. Ning Shu saw this and was quite happy in her heart. Zhu Siyuan was now developing in a good direction. Other than that, Ning Shu prepared tools for himself. He had a sturdy medical kit, medical scissors, scalpels, and a sturdy belt that he could carry wherever he went. These were all things that she needed to make a living. Not only that, Ning Shu also made a set of silver needles. When necessary, he would use silver needles. The combination of Chinese and Western medicine had a good effect. Ning Shu consciously started to collect anti-inflammatory Western medicine. Occasionally, he would go to the Chinese pharmacy to buy some herbs and grind them into powder. The main purpose was to stop the bleeding quickly. Only when the bleeding was stopped could there be enough time to save the patient. The finished powder was placed in the medical kit. When he was free, he would make it and accumulate it slowly. Other than making the golden sore powder, Ning Shu made his own poison. However, the materials for making poison were hard to find. The things he made weren't very effective and weren't very toxic. Ning Shu was busy with his own things. Zhu Yinxiu had recuperated in the hospital for almost a month. She also left the hospital and was almost recovered. However, he spent a lot of money this time. When he paid for the 3rd time, it was Fang Feifei who paid for it. Ning Shu watched Zhu Yinxiu leave the hospital. Looking at his and Fang Feifei's back, Ning Shu's heart was as calm as still water. They probably wouldn't have any interactions in the future. Ning Shu touched her chest and felt uncomfortable. Zhu Sunyang was really a lowly person. She was especially lowly in front of Zhu Yinxiu. She should have called Zhu Yinxiu Mr. and introduced him to others as, "This is my husband, my husband." However, she was afraid that Zhu Yinxiu would be angry. If others asked, she would say that she was Zhu Yinxiu's sister. The atmosphere in the country was getting tenser and tenser. The Japanese occupied the 3 provinces in the northeast. There were 2 forces in the country that were entangled and fighting a civil war. The central government's policy was to pacify the country before resisting foreign aggression. They were suppressing the red forces everywhere. Spies were rampant and assassinations and sabotage were constant. This made the situation more turbulent and uneasy. Every day, from high officials and nobles to peddlers and pawns, people were caught and sent to prison. They were suppressing people who seemed to be from the Red Forces. There were layers of dark clouds that couldn't be removed over the whole nation. The ground under their feet was moaning and wailing. Ning Shu was in such a troubled world. That kind of insignificance, that kind of suffering and pain were lingering in his heart. Everyone should do something for this suffering nation. Zhu Xiyuan asked Ning Shu for books to read. Ning Shu took Zhu Xiyuan to the bookstore to buy books without hesitation. Now, Zhu Xiyuan could recognize some words and understand some books. In this day and age, books were precious and expensive. The bookstore was basically filled with students in school uniforms or well-dressed intellectuals. When Ning Shu and Zhu Xiyuan were choosing books, they heard an uncertain and shocked voice. Zhu Sunyang. Ning Shu turned his head and saw Zhu Yinxiu. Zhu Yinxiu was holding a book in her hand and was looking at him in a daze. Ning Shu was dumbfounded. Who are you? Zhu Yinxiu's heart skipped a beat. When she saw someone who shouldn't be here appear in front of her, she felt shocked and ridiculous. Then, two words appeared in her heart. Oh no! Why are you here? Zhu Yinxiu's voice was a little loud, causing everyone in the bookstore to look at her. Zhu Yinxiu quickly walked in front of Ning Shu, grabbed Ning Shu's arm, and dragged Ning Shu out of the bookstore. Ning Shu shook off Zhu Yinxiu's hand and carried Zhu Xiyuan out of the bookstore. After leaving the bookstore, Zhu Yinxiu scolded Ning Shu. Why are you here? Where is mother? I sent you so many telegrams, why didn't you reply? You came to Shanghai without telling me. This is not a place for you to stay. Go back quickly. Ning Shu was still confused. He asked hesitantly, You are? Zhu Yinxiu. Zhu Yinxiu said impatiently. Ning Shu immediately smiled and said happily, Sir, I finally found you. Zhu Yinxiu frowned tightly and asked in disbelief, What did you call me, sir? I think people here call their husbands sir. Ning Shu said, then turned his head and said to Zhu Xiyuan, Xiyuan, this is your father. Your father is not dead yet. Call him father. Zhu Xiyuan. His father was not dead. Chapter 573. When Zhu Yinxiu heard Ning Shu say that she was dead and told the child that she was dead, she was very angry with Ning Shu. She reached out and hit Ning Shu hard. Zhu Susu, I'm asking you a question. You left your mother and came to Shanghai. What if something happened to her at home? Mother is already dead. I sent you many telegrams to ask you to come back, but you didn't. Mother kept talking about you. Xiyuan was the one who sent the coffin, Ning Shu said. Dead? Zhu Yinxiu staggered. Why didn't you tell me clearly when she passed away? Ning Shu. I kept sending you telegrams but you just didn't come back. Ning Shu had said this twice, but Zhu Yinxiu didn't seem to hear it. Zhu Yinxiu pulled her hair with her hands. She looked very painful and called her mother. Ning Shu curled his lips. If she really cared about Mother Zhu so much, why didn't Zhu Yinxiu come back after sending so many telegrams? Zhu Yinxiu wiped her tears and looked at Ning Shu with reddened eyes. Why didn't you tell me you came to Shanghai? I didn't know where you were. I couldn't find you, Ning Shu said lightly. Zhu Yinxiu looked down at Zhu Xiyuan. Zhu Xiyuan hid behind Ning Shu. Zhu Yinxiu felt that this child was very familiar. Thinking of the child who said, "You are so ugly" in the hospital, Zhu Yinxiu had complicated feelings for this child. Where do you live now? Zhu Yinxiu asked Ning Shu. Ning Shu was a little puzzled why Zhu Yinxiu asked this. He quickly said, Xiyuan and I live in the tube-shaped apartment. Sir, can Xiyuan and I move to your place? Zhu Yinxiu almost jumped up. She didn't want Zhu Susu to follow her. She said, You can live in the tube-shaped apartment first. My room is too small. It can't fit too many people. Ning Shu, fuck. Ning Shu stared at Zhu Yinxiu and didn't say anything. Zhu Yinxiu avoided Ning Shu's gaze, squatted down, and opened her hand to Zhu Xiyuan. She said softly, Xiyuan, come to father. Zhu Xiyuan shrank behind Ning Shu and hid behind Ning Shu. He stuck his head out and looked at Zhu Yinxiu vigilantly. Seeing Zhu Xiyuan like this, Zhu Yinxiu gave up trying to get closer to him. She stood up and said to Ning Shu, Sunyang, do you have money? I sent you so many telegrams, but you didn't send me any money. Do you know what kind of life I've been living recently? Zhu Yinxiu had been having a hard time recently. She owed money to her classmate some time ago. Zhu Yanxiu pawned all her valuable things and finally paid back the money she borrowed from her classmate. However, she still owed Fang Feifei a lot of money. Zhu Yanxiu could only tell Fang Feifei that she had already informed her family. Because the current situation was too chaotic, the money was still on the way and hadn't been sent yet. Zhu Yanxiu was burning her heart every day. She didn't know how long she could keep it a secret. Zhu Yanxiu couldn't bear to go out and work. If she worked as a waitress, she would be embarrassed to death if she met her classmate. Zhu Yanxiu had created the image of a rich young master in front of her classmates. It was very uncomfortable to break the image she had created. Zhu Yanxiu was holding on like this now. Now that she suddenly saw Ning Shu, Zhu Yanxiu was relieved. At least the current predicament was solved. She asked Ning Shu for money. I was sick some time ago and spent a lot of money on medical expenses. I owe my classmate a lot of money. Give me some money to pay back the debt first. Zhu Yanxiu said to Ning Shu. She was probably asking for money. Her attitude towards Ning Shu was a little better. She said in a soft voice, "When I find a bigger house, you and Siyuan can move in with me." Ning Shu asked without changing his expression, "Which classmate can lend you so much money? How much is the medical expenses?" 10 yuan, Zhu Yanxiu said. Ning Shu, fuck off. Who lent it to you? Ning Shu asked again. Zhu Yanxiu's eyes flashed and she said, "A classmate with the same interests." Ning Shu, fuck off. How much money do you have? Zhu Yanxiu asked. Give me some money to pay back the money I borrowed. Ning Shu looked at Zhu Yanxiu. Such a strange person refreshed her worldview. Such a natural attitude was all because Zhu Sunyang had spoiled her. She used to think that Miao Miao Miao's husband, Zhang Jiasen, was a scumbag. But at least Zhang Jiasen gave back to the family that provided for him. He robbed Miao Miao Miao's family by giving back. However, Zhu Yanxiu only had herself in her heart. 1 second, she was still sad that her mother had passed away. The next second, she was asking her for money. Ning Shu coughed and said sadly, "I don't have any money on me. I spent a lot of money on my mother's medical expenses when she was sick. After she passed away, I spent a lot of money on her funeral. I also chose a place with good feng shui for my mother. All the money at home has been spent." Anger flashed across Zhu Yanxiu's face. She rubbed her eyebrows and asked angrily, "You really don't have money?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I really don't have money. Siyuan and I both live in a narrow tube-shaped apartment. We can also hear the people next door snoring in their sleep and eating rotten vegetable leaves." Zhu Yanxiu stared at Ning Shu. She felt that Zhu Sunyang's skin was fairer than before, and her face was rounder than before. She looked so good. Did she eat rotten vegetable leaves? Zhu Yanxiu's heart was burning with anger. She felt that the woman in front of her was making a fool of her, and really treated her as a fool. Coupled with the frustration during this period, Zhu Yanxiu could hardly suppress the anger in her heart. Facing Zhu Sunyang, Zhu Yanxiu could lose her temper without any scruples. "Zhu Sunyang, what do you mean? You took your child to the bookstore to buy books, wore good clothes and gained weight. You said that you ate rotten vegetable leaves. Are you kidding me?" Ning Shu touched his face. "That's why it's said that Shanghai's environment is good for people. Eating rotten vegetable leaves made me gain weight." Zhu Yanxiu was about to die of anger. "Zhu Sunyang, do you think that the Zhu family will be able to make a comeback after my mother passed away? I'm your husband. How can you be so selfish?" So, Ning Shu looked at Zhu Yanxiu coldly. Why didn't he think that he was already a husband and a father when he was dating Fang Feifei at this time as her husband? How much did Zhu Sunyang spoil Zhu Yanxiu? "I really don't have money. Even if you kill me, I don't have money." Ning Shu spread his hands and said. Zhu Yanxiu's face was gloomy. She couldn't help but say, "Zhu Sunyang, stop it, okay? I really need money now." Ning Shu looked helpless. "But I really don't have money. My family has been emptied. Can I live with you? I don't have money to rent a house. How about letting Siyuan live with you?" "I won't live with you. Let Siyuan have a place to rest." "Mother." Zhu Siyuan looked at Ning Shu with watery eyes. Ning Shu lowered his head and said to Zhu Siyuan, "Siyuan, be good. Call me father. You can live with father in the future. You don't have to live in a shabby house with mother." Zhu Siyuan. Why couldn't he understand what his mother was saying? Chapter 574. Zhu Yanqiu originally wanted money, but now Ning Shu gave him a child. He had to go to school and didn't have time to take care of a child. Moreover, if he brought the child with him, how could he explain the child's identity to others? Zhu Yanqiu glanced at the cowering Zhu Siyuan. Hiding behind a woman made Zhu Yanqiu uncomfortable, and he didn't like the child that much. I don't have time to take care of the child at all. I'm so busy with my homework every day. What about the child? Do I just lock the child at home? Zhu Yanqiu frowned tightly. Obviously, he didn't want to accept Zhu Siyuan. Ning Shu looked troubled. Then what should I do? I can't afford to live in the tube-shaped apartment for a while. I can suffer, but the child can't suffer with me. All kinds of emotions were not enough to describe Zhu Yanqiu's feelings. What was the situation now? Was Zhu Sunyang going to ask him for money? Give me the money first, and Siyuan will live with me, Zhu Yanqiu said. Ning Shu. I really don't have money. Ning Shu spread his hands. Zhu Yanqiu was impatient. If they weren't on the street, Zhu Yanqiu would want to check her pockets to see if she had money. Zhu Yanqiu looked at Ning Shu up and down. He didn't look like he was short of money, and Zhu Siyuan was also white and tender with baby fat. How could he say that he didn't have food or a place to live? Zhu Yanqiu was irritable. He felt betrayed and said anxiously, Sunyang, I'm in a bad situation now. Give me some money first. I believe you have money. I don't have money, Ning Shu said firmly. You, Yanqiu, have you bought your books? Fang Feifei came over with a bag with a smile on her face. Hearing Fang Feifei's voice, Zhu Yanqiu's hair stood on end, and his pupils trembled. His body was stiff until Fang Feifei came to his side. There was only one thought in his mind. Fang Feifei and Zhu Sunyang bumped into each other. What should he do? Fang Feifei glanced at Ning Shu and asked casually, This is? She's my sister. I'm his wife. Zhu Yanqiu and Ning Shu said at the same time, but what they said was completely different. Zhu Yanqiu looked at Ning Shu with an ashen face. Her eyes were red, and her gaze was terrifying. She looked like a wild beast that was about to devour someone. Ning Shu's face was indifferent. Whose sister gave birth to your child, raised your child, and even earned money for you to study and support your squandering? Fang Feifei was stunned. She looked at Ning Shu, and then at Zhu Yanqiu. She didn't know what was going on and asked in confusion, What do you mean? I'm fine. Zhu Yanqiu took Fang Feifei's hand and turned to leave. She said to Fang Feifei, You met a crazy person. She's crazy. She met a man and said that she was his wife. Just ignore her. But, Fang Feifei turned to look at Ning Shu. Ning Shu said to Zhu Siyuan, Child, quickly call me dad. No, call me dad. Call me daddy. Zhu Siyuan called out obediently, Daddy. When Zhu Yanqiu heard this, her face instantly turned ferocious. She looked at Ning Shu with eyes full of disgust and hatred. Obviously, she was very angry at Ning Shu for not understanding the situation. Yanqiu, this child is calling you dad? Fang Feifei looked at Zhu Yanqiu in confusion and uneasiness. What's going on? I said she's crazy. I was just pestered by this crazy woman. Zhu Yanqiu took Fang Feifei's hand and left. Fang Feifei kept looking back at Ning Shu. Her face was full of confusion. Ning Shu waved to Zhu Yanqiu and shouted, Sir, I'll wait for you here tomorrow. Zhu Yanqiu's figure paused. Then she took Fang Feifei's hand and left quickly. Ning Shu curled his lips. At least he had to confirm his identity. Zhu Sunyang was his wife, not some troublesome sister. Mom, is he really my dad? Zhu Siyuan asked in confusion. Isn't dad dead? Why did he suddenly come back to life? Zhu Siyuan felt like he had been played too much. His mother said, Siyuan, your dad is dead. Now she said, Siyuan, call me dad. Call me dad. Call me daddy. Ning Shu nodded. It's your dad. He went to school before you were born. He never came home for so many years. I thought he was dead. Zhu Siyuan lowered his head and said, Dad doesn't seem to like me. Ning Shu didn't know what to say. Siyuan, not everyone likes us. What we need to do is to love ourselves better. Dad doesn't love Siyuan, but Mom does. Zhu Siyuan didn't understand. He was very confused. Ning Shu took Zhu Siyuan's hand and went home. He didn't care about Zhu Yinxiu at all. As for whether the relationship between Zhu Yinxiu and Fang Feifei would be broken because of this, Ning Shu could only shrug. It was none of his business. As for waiting for Zhu Yinxiu at the bookstore tomorrow, it was just a joke. Zhu Siyuan was in low spirits again. He had just gotten used to not having a dad, and now his dad appeared again. Then he realized that it was better not to have a dad. His dad even called his mom a lunatic. Ning Shu looked at Zhu Siyuan and didn't say anything. It was useless to say more about this kind of thing, especially at Zhu Siyuan's age. The image of a dad was like Mount Tai standing in front of the child, shielding the child from the wind and rain. Ning Shu still did her own things every day. The medicinal powder she made was almost enough to fill a medicine box, and the effect was not bad. Ning Shu tried to cut her finger and sprinkled the powder on it. The bleeding stopped very quickly. The only drawback was that it made the wound hurt and stimulated the wound a little. However, it was a life-saving medicine. This drawback could be tolerated. When Zhu Yinxiu heard Ning Shu say that he would wait for her at the entrance of the bookstore the next day, Zhu Yinxiu really went to the bookstore the next day. However, she waited from morning to noon, and Ning Shu didn't appear. Zhu Yinxiu could only wait patiently. She couldn't contact Zhu Sunyang at all now. She didn't know where Zhu Sunyang lived or where to find her. You really came to wait for someone? Fang Feifei walked to Zhu Yinxiu and looked at her expressionlessly. Are you hiding something from me? Zhu Yinxiu didn't go to class today. Fang Feifei just tried her luck to find Zhu Yinxiu. But she didn't expect that Zhu Yinxiu was really waiting for that woman here. Zhu Yinxiu immediately shook her head and said, I'm not waiting for someone. I'm here to buy books. Yesterday, I was pestered by that lunatic woman and didn't even buy books. Fang Feifei's expression became even worse. She was very angry, but she held it back and said stiffly, You don't have to buy books without going to class. You're waiting for that woman yesterday, right? What's your relationship? Zhu Yinxiu, make it clear. Zhu Yinxiu shook her head firmly. Feifei, I really just came to buy books. Then did you buy them? What kind of books would take half a day to buy? Did you not see the person you were waiting for? Fang Feifei had a faint guess in her heart. She felt shocked and sad. Chapter 575. Fang Feifei felt that she didn't know Zhu Yinxiu at all. Zhu Yinxiu actually hid such a big thing from her. Fang Feifei wouldn't be fooled by Zhu Yinxiu's words of a madwoman. That woman was not a madwoman at all. Zhu Yinxiu already had a wife and a child. Fang Feifei tried to calm herself down and suppress the anger and sadness in her heart. She looked at Zhu Yinxiu and said, I have the right to know the truth. Zhu Yinxiu, if you don't tell me, I'll find out the truth myself. Zhu Yinxiu scratched his head irritably with a painful and helpless expression. He quickly followed Fang Feifei and grabbed her hand. Fang Feifei shook off Zhu Yinxiu's hand and said coldly, Zhu Yinxiu, you should know my temper. Either you tell me the truth, or we break up. Zhu Yinxiu took a deep breath and said, I'm sorry I lied to you. You. Fang Feifei's face turned pale, and she turned to leave. Zhu Yinxiu stood in front of Fang Feifei and said, I know you won't forgive me, but at least listen to me. I didn't know about Zhu Sunyang's marriage. When I was 4 years old, I was sick and almost couldn't make it. My parents were superstitious and said that I would be cured if I found a child bride. Zhu Sunyang was sold to my family at that time. I didn't treat her as a wife at all. At most she was a maid. Zhu Yinxiu explained as he took Fang Feifei's hand. I never loved her in my heart. That child. Fang Feifei was mentally prepared in advance, but she was still hurt by the truth. Zhu Yinxiu hurriedly said, That child was an accident. Just once, Zhu Sunyang got pregnant. Feifei, I didn't tell you this because I like you very much. I want to be with you. I wanted to tell the truth many times, but I didn't dare to take the risk. I wanted to lose you. As Zhu Yinxiu spoke, he held Fang Feifei's hand tightly, as if he was afraid that Fang Feifei would disappear. His palms were wet. Even at this moment, Zhu Yinxiu still didn't tell Fang Feifei the truth. He didn't tell her that the Zhu family had collapsed, and he was no longer a rich young master. Zhu Yanxiu didn't dare to say it. If he did, Fang Feifei would definitely leave him. He had a wife and a child. What's more, he was a poor rich man. He was simply useless. Would Fang Feifei love such a Zhu Yanxiu? Zhu Yanxiu wasn't sure. Zhu Yanxiu pursed her lips tightly and placed Fang Feifei's hand on her heart. She said affectionately, "Feifei, I only have you in my heart." Fang Feifei pushed Zhu Yanxiu's hand away with an ugly expression. Zhu Yanxiu still wanted to hold Fang Feifei's hand, but Fang Feifei shook her head at Zhu Yanxiu. "Let me be alone." She turned and left. Looking at Fang Feifei's receding figure, Zhu Yanxiu angrily punched a pillar on the roadside. Her fingers suddenly felt a sharp pain. Zhu Yanxiu shook her hand with a pale face and grabbed her hair in pain. It was all Zhu Sunyang's fault. Zhu Sunyang ruined his life. Without Zhu Sunyang, Fang Feifei wouldn't treat him like this. Zhu Yanxiu really liked Fang Feifei. Fang Feifei was bright and moving, compared with Zhu Sunyang, who was dull and knew nothing and couldn't communicate with her at all. She was much better. The most important thing was that he loved Fang Feifei and regarded Fang Feifei as his only wife in this life. Zhu Yanxiu's mood at this moment was fear and hatred. He was afraid that Fang Feifei would leave him. Of course, he hated Zhu Sunyang. Why did she appear? Zhu Yanxiu really wanted to remove Zhu Sunyang from his life like weeding weeds. For Zhu Yanxiu, Zhu Sunyang was the shame in his life, and it was a shame that couldn't be erased. Zhu Yanxiu regretted consummating with Zhu Sunyang and making her pregnant and giving birth to a child. It made everything so complicated. Too many things had happened during this period of time. He had been worrying about money all day long. Now, Zhu Sunyang had come to Shanghai and let Fang Feifei know the truth of the matter when he was unprepared. The matter that he had painstakingly concealed for so long was exposed so suddenly. Zhu Yanxiu, who waited for a long time but didn't see anyone, was very unhappy. Moreover, the person he was waiting for was Zhu Sunyang. Zhu Yanxiu was very angry, but he had no choice but to continue waiting. Anyway, things were already so bad. He had to get back from Zhu Sunyang. At least now, he had to get the money and return the medical fees that Fang Feifei paid for her. Zhu Yanxiu was now trying his best to get Fang Feifei back. Just thinking that Fang Feifei would leave him, Zhu Yanxiu felt that his life was gloomy. Did he have to spend the rest of his life with a woman like Zhu Sunyang? This was really terrible. The two of them were not on the same ideological level and couldn't communicate at all. Zhu Yanxiu shuddered at the thought of facing a boring and dull woman for the rest of his life. Zhu Yanxiu compared Fang Feifei's advantages with Zhu Sunyang's shortcomings. Zhu Sunyang was useless. Zhu Yanxiu had been waiting for Ning Xu to appear. But he waited from morning to noon, from noon to evening, and finally, when the sky was dark, Ning Xu didn't appear. Zhu Sunyang. Zhu Yanxiu gritted his teeth and shouted this name. He still didn't know that he was fooled. He was a pig. Zhu Sunyang had the courage now and dared to fool him like this. What a vicious woman. She pretended to be so gentle before, but now that there is no one in the Zhu family, she shows her true colors. Zhu Yanxiu muttered in his heart. He even felt that Zhu Sunyang ran away with the Zhu family's money. Otherwise, why didn't she contact him when she came to Shanghai? A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Even if the Zhu family was in dire straits, they should still have some money. This money was with Zhu Sunyang. Zhu Sunyang wanted to take this money for herself and enjoy life with it. These were all the Zhu family's things. What right did Zhu Sunyang have to take them? Zhu Yanxiu thought that he had to find Zhu Sunyang no matter what. He should inherit all the Zhu family's things. When it was dark, Zhu Yanxiu could only go back. The next day, he continued to wait at the entrance of the bookstore, waiting for Ning Xu to appear. But he waited for another day in vain. Zhu Yanxiu finally realized that Zhu Sunyang wouldn't appear. There was no way for him to wait like this. Zhu Yanxiu could only think of a way. Thinking that he had seen Zhu Siyuan in the hospital before, Zhu Yanxiu decided to go to the hospital to try his luck and ask. When Zhu Yanxiu arrived at the hospital, he asked the nurse about Zhu Siyuan. The nurse heard it and said, "You mean Nurse Zhu's child?" Nurse Zhu? Zhu Yanxiu's pupils shrank. Zhu Sunyang became a nurse? Zhu Yanxiu felt that it was ridiculous, as if he had heard a big joke. Nurse Zhu's name is Zhu Sunyang? Yes. Zhu Yinxiu almost jumped up. Zhu Sunyang was a person who didn't know anything. She was illiterate. Did she know how to use medicine? Did she know the alphabet of Western medicine? Chapter 576. Zhu Yinxiu never dreamed that the illiterate and rustic Zhu Su could become a nurse. This was even more fantastic than a dream. Zhu Yinxiu had a strange feeling in her heart. The person she disdained in her heart had changed without her knowing. Zhu Yinxiu looked for Ning Shu one ward after another. Finally, she found Ning Shu. Seeing Ning Shu holding a needle and skillfully injecting the patient, Zhu Yinxiu doubted whether this person was Zhu Sunyang. In Zhu Yinxiu's heart, Zhu Sunyang was a person who only knew how to do things. She would do whatever she was asked to do. Now, she could wear a white nurse's uniform and hold a needle. Zhu Yinxiu felt that she had been deceived. What did Zhu Sunyang mean by being so sneaky? He had been robbed before and stayed in this hospital for so long. Zhu Sunyang couldn't not know his existence. But she didn't tell him, so he had to ask Fang Feifei for medical expenses. Now because of her, Fang Feifei seemed to want to break up with him. Zhu Sunyang was really a troublemaker. After Ning Shu gave the patient an injection, he turned around with the tray and saw Zhu Yinxiu standing at the door. Zhu Yinxiu's face couldn't be darker. She was full of resentment, with a resentful and angry expression. Ning Shu didn't care about Zhu Yinxiu at all. He took the tray and left. He passed by Zhu Yinxiu expressionlessly and indifferently. Zhu Yinxiu was furious. She turned around and followed Ning Shu. She suppressed her anger and asked, Zhu Sunyang, shouldn't you say something to me? Say what? Ning Shu didn't think there was anything to say between them. Zhu Yinxiu asked in a low voice. Why didn't you tell me you were a nurse in this hospital? Oh, I'm a nurse here, Ning Shu said. Zhu Yinxiu's face turned blue, because of Ning Shu's indifferent attitude. She asked with red eyes. Zhu Sunyang, what do you mean? Zhu Yinxiu was very angry with Ning Shu's attitude. Shouldn't he say something to her? Zhu Yinxiu just wanted an apology. But what was his attitude now? What kind of attitude was that? He had asked her for money before, but she didn't give him any. Didn't nurses get paid? He was already in such a difficult situation. But Zhu Sunyang was indifferent, which made Zhu Yinxiu very dissatisfied. Ning Shu looked at Zhu Yinxiu. His expression was indignant, as if he had suffered a great grievance. Ning Shu felt uncomfortable. What are you feeling wronged for? Didn't you say that you don't want us? Don't you have a girlfriend? If I leave you silently, what else do you want? Ning Shu looked at Zhu Yinxiu sadly. I've already left. I won't hinder you and your girlfriend. What else do you want me to do? Ning Shu looked at the crowd around them, and looked at Zhu Yinxiu with red eyes. When mother left, I kept sending you telegrams, but you just refused to come back. You asked me for money, but I said I didn't have any money, so you got angry. Sell me. I really don't have any money. More and more people gathered around. Zhu Yinxiu listened to Ning Shu's words and her face turned red. The eyes of the people around made Zhu Yinxiu feel like a thorn. Sunyang, what are you talking about? You came to Shanghai without telling me. I was worried about you. Zhu Yinxiu reached out to take Ning Shu's hand. Obviously, she wanted to avoid the crowd, but Ning Shu avoided her hand. Sunyang, don't be willful. Zhu Yinxiu's tone was threatening. Ning Shu said sadly, Yinxiu, I know I'm not as beautiful as your girlfriend, and I'm not as cultured as your girlfriend. You don't want me and the child anymore. You said you couldn't communicate with me, but you never talked to me properly. After mother passed away, we had no money. I sent you a telegram saying that I was going to Shanghai, but you didn't reply. I came to Shanghai and couldn't find you, so I could only sleep on the street with the child. Zhu Yinxiu's face and eyes were red. She looked at Ning Shu and couldn't say anything. She was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Zhu Yinxiu didn't expect Zhu Sunyang to have such courage. She didn't give him any face in front of the crowd, and talked about him, as if he was a beast. Did she want you to give up Fang Feifei? As long as there was something wrong with his head, he wouldn't choose Zhu Sunyang. What was Zhu Sunyang doing? Was she trying to ruin his reputation? Not only was she illiterate, but she was also vicious. Sure enough, people would change. Zhu Sunyang was not like this in the past. The collapse of the Zhu family made Zhu Sunyang have other thoughts. Sunyang, I didn't want to ask you for money. It's just that you didn't tell me that you took the child with you. I was worried. I thought something happened to you. Zhu Yanxiu's tone was full of concern. A smile suddenly appeared on Ning Shu's face and he said, I thought you were going to ask me for money again. Wait until I give you my salary this month. Just bear with it for a few more days. Zhu Yanxiu suddenly felt that the eyes around her were full of strong disdain. She said to Ning Shu, Sunyang, I still have classes. I'll come to you tomorrow. Zhu Yanxiu left in a hurry. She looked a little embarrassed from the back. Nurse Zhu, is this your husband? Ning Shu, the head nurse in her 40s, asked. He looks good. How can he do that kind of thing? Ning Shu grinned and said, he is a person who has received a new education. He pursues free love and opposes the feudal arranged marriage. We are not on the same page. The new education made people abandon their wives and children? This man is not good, the head nurse said. But you are a legitimate wife. That kind of vixen is not legitimate. Ning Shu didn't say anything. According to the head nurse, she couldn't save this marriage. Ning Shu didn't want to. Why should she save it? Besides, she might not be able to save it. During this period of time, without Zhu Yanxiu, she still lived well with the child. She didn't have to serve a man and had to face his cold violence. Anyone could live well. Even if a woman didn't have a man, she could still live well. How could she be so lonely? She just wanted to find someone to rely on, especially a man like Zhu Yanxiu, who couldn't be relied on at all. Instead, he would break her bones and suck her marrow. Zhu Yanxiu wouldn't share joys and sorrows with Zhu Sunyang. She would share joys and sorrows with Fang Feifei. In her heart, she didn't treat Zhu Sunyang as a person of the same class. She was very noble. Don't be too sad. Men are all like this. When they are young, they are dazzled by the colorful world. When they are older, they still have to return to their families. The head nurse comforted Ning Shu. Ning Shu took off her nurse uniform and planned to pick up Zhu Siyuan from school. She wouldn't wait for the prodigal to turn over a new leaf. Besides, how could Zhu Yanxiu turn over a new leaf? Even if he did, she would kick him away. A prodigal was a prodigal. It was easy to change mountains and rivers, but hard to change one's nature. After picking up Zhu Siyuan from school, Ning Shu took Zhu Siyuan to a Western restaurant to eat steak. She spent all the money, but didn't give it to Zhu Yanxiu. Chapter 577. Ning Shu was more worried about what would happen to Zhu Siyuan if he went to the battlefield. Ning Shu pursed his lips and said, Siyuan, Mom might go to the battlefield. Zhu Siyuan put down the pencil in his hand and walked to Ning Shu. Zhu Siyuan was much taller than before. She was about 5 or 6 years old and was almost at Ning Shu's heart. Besides, Zhu Sunyang was not tall to begin with. Mom, you will leave me, right? Zhu Siyuan looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu sighed and said, Mom has to go. Zhu Siyuan lowered his head and sounded very disappointed. Mom, Siyuan doesn't want to leave you. Ning Shu regretted talking about this topic. He didn't promise Zhu Siyuan that he would never leave her. Zhu Siyuan was unhappy for a few days and ignored Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't say anything. Ning Shu could only accompany Zhu Siyuan for a few years. Since Zhu Yanxiu knew that Ning Shu worked in the hospital, she went to the hospital to find Ning Shu when she didn't have class. However, her attitude towards Ning Shu was much better. It was probably because there were too many people in the hospital that he had some scruples. Zhu Yanxiu didn't want to be known as a heartless person. The intellectuals in this era paid more attention to reputation. Zhu Yanxiu still wanted to revitalize the Zhu family. Zhu Yanxiu's purpose was to ask Ning Shu for money to avoid the current crisis. She felt that Zhu Sunyang was smarter than before. She didn't ask for money directly. She wanted to take Ning Shu and Zhu Siyuan to live with her. Sunyang, it's too much for you to raise the children alone. Live with me and let me take care of you, Zhu Yanxiu said gently to Ning Shu. When Ning Shu heard Zhu Yanxiu's words, she was dumbfounded. What did she mean? Ning Shu didn't think that Zhu Yanxiu was so kind to live with her and Zhu Siyuan. She was so resistant before. That's not good. Will it affect your studies? Didn't you say that you were busy with your studies and couldn't take care of the children? Ning Shu said with a frown. It's fine. It's my duty to take care of you. Zhu Yanqiu said gently, coupled with his handsome face and refined temperament of a rich young master. It was easy for him to give others a good impression. Ning Shu didn't agree, but he also understood Zhu Yanqiu's intentions. Once they were in Zhu Yanqiu's territory, Zhu Yanqiu could do whatever she wanted. At that time, she would be completely exploited by Zhu Yanqiu. In the hospital, Zhu Yanqiu didn't dare to be too ruthless. Being rejected by Ning Shu, Zhu Yanqiu was angry, but she said, Su Nyang, when are you going to stop being angry? Ning Shu pursed his lips. She made it sound as if she was being unreasonable. If I don't go, why don't you bite me? Zhu Yanqiu could only go to the hospital to look for Ning Shu every day. She said that she wanted to take care of Ning Shu and let Ning Shu live with her. She said that it was too dangerous for a woman to live with a child, especially now that the world was so chaotic. Ning Shu still refused, and he refused in a big way. Zhu Yanqiu was so angry that she hated Ning Shu even more. There was a reason why he was so anxious to get money, because Fang Feifei was ignoring him now. Since the matter was exposed, Fang Feifei hadn't said a word to him. Although she didn't mention breaking up with him, Zhu Yanqiu was very uneasy. Zhu Yanqiu now wanted to find a reason to talk to Fang Feifei. The best reason was to pay back the medical expenses that Fang Feifei had paid for him. But Zhu Yanqiu didn't have money, so she hoped to get it from Ning Shu. Zhu Yanqiu had never suffered since she was a child, so she didn't want to work to make money. So she could only start with Ning Shu and get money from Ning Shu. And she was a nurse now, so she should be rich. Besides, Zhu Yanqiu also suspected that Ning Shu had taken the Zhu family's money. At that time, his mother gave most of the money to him, so there was still some money left. Zhu Yanqiu thought that the money was with Ning Shu. Zhu Yanqiu had never been so embarrassed. She was so worried about money. He endured the danger of being hated by Fang Feifei and wanted to take the mother and son to live together. But she still didn't know what was good for her. But now Zhu Yanqiu could only endure it. She went to the hospital every day, no matter what weather it was, just to let Ning Shu see her sincerity and let Ning Shu live with her. Her attitude was very good, and she also said that she would protect Ning Shu and her son. Even the doctors and nurses in the hospital told Ning Shu not to be too tense, and to be gentle when it was time. When the man was impatient, she would be the one to suffer. They told Ning Shu to live a good life with Zhu Yanqiu. Ning Shu could only laugh at this. These people only saw Zhu Yanqiu's gentleness, but they didn't see Zhu Yanqiu's evil intentions. Zhu Yanqiu only had Fang Feifei in his heart. Now he was so good to her just because he wanted her to take out the money. Ning Shu was so annoyed by Zhu Yanqiu that he didn't go to the hospital to work directly. He only went to learn military medical knowledge on the battlefield. If you like to wait in the hospital, then wait until you die. When Zhu Yanqiu arrived at the hospital, she was directly told that Ning Shu had resigned. Zhu Yanqiu's head suddenly went blank. She was so angry that she wanted to strangle that woman in her heart. She disappeared without a word again. In the vast sea of people, Zhu Yanqiu didn't know where to find her again. He still didn't know where Ning Shu lived. He had lowered himself to talk to that woman, but she was still so arrogant. Zhu Yanqiu was very anxious. He had no money. If he delayed it, he wouldn't even have food to eat, let alone return the money to Fang Feifei. He was afraid that Fang Feifei would break up with him. Zhu Sunyang was so hateful. Zhu Yanqiu left the hospital. He wanted to take a rickshaw back, but he had no money at all. Zhu Yanqiu was very poor now. Zhu Yanqiu looked at the bustling streets of Shanghai, and the people coming and going. She suddenly felt helpless in her heart. No matter how Zhu Yanqiu looked down on Zhu Sunyang, he still relied on Zhu Sunyang in his heart. Because Zhu Sunyang tolerated him, he could treat Zhu Sunyang so unscrupulously. Because Zhu Sunyang would only tolerate him infinitely. Now without Zhu Sunyang, Zhu Yanqiu's heart was blank and scared. She had the same feeling as Mother Zhu at that time. She didn't want to face the outside world. But she let Zhu Sunyang serve them like a cow. Ning Shu's life was very comfortable. As for whether Zhu Yinxiu was alive or dead, she didn't want to care. In fact, Ning Xu felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. She wanted to end Zhu Yinxiu directly at that time, but Zhu Sunyang subconsciously resisted, which made the current situation neither good nor bad. The humble and cowardly Zhu Sunyang couldn't be blamed for being bitten by dogs. If a person didn't have a bottom line and principles, they would either live a very good life or live without self like Zhu Sunyang. Ning Xu freed up more time to accompany Zhu Siyuan. She also prepared for the preliminary work of going to the battlefield, so that she wouldn't be in a mess on the battlefield. Ning Xu couldn't wait to be armed to the teeth to ensure her safety. Anything could happen on the battlefield. If something happened, her task would be a failure. Chapter 578. Zhu Siyuan poured a cup of tea for Ning Xu, who was grinding medicinal powder. The small man held the teapot and poured tea for Ning Xu. Ning Xu was shocked and quickly took the teapot. It was filled with hot water. If he could not hold it, and it fell to the ground, it would break. The teapot was small, but it would be a big problem if he got scalded. Ning Xu placed the teapot on the table and said to Zhu Siyuan, "Thank you, Siyuan." Zhu Siyuan looked at the medicinal powder. Ning Xu asked, "Mother, are these things used to save people?" "Yes." Zhu Siyuan looked at Ning Xu and said, "Mother, send me to boarding school." Ning Xu was stunned. "What?" Zhu Siyuan said in a low voice. "I asked Mr. what a battlefield doctor was. Mr. said that it was a person who saved the lives of soldiers. I told Mr. that Mother was a battlefield doctor. Mr. admired Mother very much. I don't understand what Mr. means." Zhu Siyuan looked at Ning Xu. "Mother, go to the battlefield." Ning Xu looked at Zhu Siyuan strangely. Zhu Siyuan had not been happy a while ago, but now he had thought it through. He was so reasonable. It was not like Zhu Siyuan at all. "What's wrong with you?" Ning Xu looked at Zhu Siyuan. "Why did you suddenly become mature?" Zhu Siyuan said, "Mr. said that what Mother does is beneficial to the country and the people." Ning Xu didn't think that it was because he had suddenly thought things through. She reckoned that he had been praised by the teacher, and no longer objected to Ning Xu going to the battlefield. She was afraid that when she really went to the battlefield, Zhu Siyuan would cry himself to death. "Mother, I'll go to boarding school," Zhu Siyuan said to Ning Xu. At this time, boarding schools already existed. The concept of boarding schools was proposed by the Song sisters. Ning Xu put down the work in his hand and asked Zhu Siyuan, "Is that really what you think? Mother went to the battlefield to save people and is alone. I don't even know when Mother will come back. Can Mother not go?" Zhu Siyuan tilted his head and asked, "Of course not." Ning Xu patted Zhu Siyuan's head. "Mother has to go." Ning Xu felt that if he left, Zhu Siyuan would definitely cry in the boarding school. Zhu Siyuan Ning Xu said, "Mother, I realized that I have things that other students don't have. The things that other students have are better than mine. These were all bought for me by Mother. In the past, Mother suffered a lot. Now that you have these things, is it because Mother wants to go to the battlefield?" Zhu Siyuan had a lot of books and even a fountain pen. But the other students might not even have a cheap brush. Ning Xu looked at Zhu Siyuan in surprise. He couldn't help but hug him and said, "Siyuan, in this world, you have to give something in order to get something. Mother wants to give Siyuan a better life and become someone that Siyuan can be proud of." The battlefield changed rapidly. Ning Xu didn't know when he would return from the battlefield. Ning Xu could only influence Zhu Siyuan in a positive way. "In the future, you can proudly tell others that your mother is a battlefield doctor who saves people. What about father?" Zhu Siyuan asked. Ning Xu was speechless for a moment. How should he answer? He thought about it and said, "When the nation is in danger, perhaps your father will become a soldier." Ning Xu wasn't sure if Zhu Yanqiu would still join the army. "Siyuan, do you want to see your father? Mother will take you to see him." Ning Xu kept stopping Zhu Siyuan from seeing Zhu Yanqiu. No matter how young a child was, he had his own judgment. Zhu Siyuan nodded. "Yes. Okay." Ning Xu put on a jacket, held Zhu Siyuan's hand, and went out. They hailed a rickshaw and went to Zhu Yanqiu's school. Zhu Yanqiu's school environment was quite good. The students who came and went were all wearing Zhongshan suits. There were also female students wearing black leather shoes and pleated skirts in 2s and 3s. They were holding books in their hands and had their hair in braids, which made Ning Shu feel like she was in a different era. Because Ning Shu wasn't a student of the school, he could only wait for Zhu Yanqiu at the school gate. Zhu Yanqiu was notified by the reception office that someone was looking for him. Zhu Yanqiu immediately thought of Zhu Su. Zhu Yanqiu saw Ning Shu holding the child at the school gate. He was surprised and angry, but he suppressed his anger. He was afraid that she would run away. This time, he had to know her address no matter what. "Su, you're here. Siyuan is here too." Zhu Yanqiu's attitude was quite good. Ning Shu nodded and looked Zhu Yanqiu up and down. Zhu Yanqiu was much thinner than before. There was a heavy gloominess between his eyebrows. Obviously, he wasn't doing well. "Knowing that you're not doing well, I feel much better. Siyuan wants to come and see you," Ning Shu said calmly. It was this kind of indifferent attitude again. Zhu Yanqiu was so angry that his liver hurt. He left the hospital without saying anything. He couldn't find her at all. Shouldn't she explain to him? Zhu Yanqiu felt that the other party didn't take him seriously at all. Zhu Yanqiu sadly found that no matter how angry he was, he had to endure it. Moreover, he had to endure it for Zhu Su. How sad was that? "Siyuan, call Dad. Don't you want to see Dad?" Ning Shu asked Zhu Siyuan. There were people coming and going at the school gate now. Many students who passed by looked over when they heard this. Zhu Yanqiu's face immediately turned green. "Father!" Zhu Siyuan called out in a crisp voice. Zhu Yanqiu glared at Ning Shu fiercely. This person was doing it on purpose. He wanted to spread the news that he had a family everywhere. "Call uncle." Zhu Yanqiu deliberately raised his voice. Obviously, he said it for others to hear. Zhu Siyuan was dumbfounded. He turned to look at Ning Shu. Ning Shu had a smile on his face. Zhu Yanqiu was really a coward. He was the most cowardly man she had ever seen. He was afraid of being laughed at, and wanted to make them disappear from this world. "Let's go home first." Zhu Yanqiu wanted to take Ning Shu and Zhu Siyuan back to where he lived. Ning Shu called for a rickshaw and said, "Siyuan just wanted to see you. He's already seen you. We're going back." Zhu Yanqiu was irritated. She felt that these two people were just here to see monkeys. They would leave after seeing her. "Sunyang, don't be stubborn, okay? Can't we have a good talk?" Zhu Yanqiu said very helplessly. "I can explain about Fang Feifei." Ning Shu grinned. How else did this matter need to be explained? Ning Shu didn't want to hear it at all. He said to Zhu Siyuan, "Siyuan, let's go back." Zhu Siyuan nodded and got on the rickshaw. Zhu Yanqiu quickly grabbed Ning Shu and asked, "Sunyang, where do you live?" "The apartment. Didn't I tell you before? I live in the apartment." Ning Shu shook off Zhu Yanqiu's hand and got on the rickshaw. "Zhu Sunyang, do you think of me as?" Zhu Yanqiu looked around and said in a low voice, "As your husband? Do you think of me as your wife? I'm not your sister." Ning Shu sneered. Chapter 579. Zhu Yanqiu never cared about Zhu Sunyang, but he asked Zhu Sunyang to obey him wholeheartedly, think about him, and work hard without complaint. "Fuck off." Ning Shu directly let the rickshaw driver go. Zhu Yanqiu ran a long distance behind the rickshaw, and he was too tired to keep up. Ning Shu looked back at Zhu Yanqiu, who was bent over and panting with his hands on his knees. Ning Shu looked down on such a man very much. He was not worthy of being a son, husband or father. Zhu Yanqiu was a spoiled person, and he was very embarrassed when he encountered something. Ning Shu wondered how such a person became successful in the end. Was it because of his halo? "Mother, why did father ask me to call him uncle?" Ning Shu asked Zhu Siyuan in confusion. Ning Shu said casually, "Because your father doesn't want people to know that you are his son." "Why?" "Because he feels ashamed." "Why does he feel ashamed?" "Because your mother has not received a new education." "I don't understand. What is the relationship between these two?" "Yes, your father likes girls who receive a new education." "You don't understand?" Ning Shu received an order from above that she was going to follow the army. When she received this order, Ning Shu's heart was heavy. She glanced at Zhu Siyuan, who she was most worried about. After the September 18th incident, the fall of the three eastern provinces gave Japan a taste of the sweetness of the war to invade China. Using the method of war to support war, they solved the lack of economic resources, the small domestic market, the overpopulation, and the resulting domestic instability. Finally, on July 7, 1937, they launched a full-scale war to invade China that lasted for 8 years. Now artillery fire was everywhere, and more troops were sent out. Ningxu did not have much time. She only had 3 days to solve the problems at home. After 3 days, Ningxu would follow the army. During this period, many people who wanted to save this race joined the army to fight against the invaders. "Mom, send me to my boarding school," Zhu Siyuan Ningxu said. "I know Mom is leaving." Zhu Siyuan grew very quickly. Now he was almost at Ningxu's shoulder. "Mother, Sir said that the Japanese invaded our land. Our compatriots should drive the Japanese invaders out of our land." Ningxu felt strange every time he heard Zhu Siyuan shout such high-sounding slogans. Zhu Siyuan must have been brainwashed by his Mr. Nationalist. Ningxu sent Zhu Siyuan to the boarding school and told the teacher that he was a military doctor and had received orders to follow the army. He hoped that he could help take care of the child. When the teacher heard this, he told Ningxu not to worry and that he would take good care of Zhu Siyuan. When the country was in danger, everyone hoped that the land under their feet would be safe. Although not everyone dared to go to the battlefield, they were still willing to do something for the country. Ningxu squatted down and hugged Zhu Siyuan. He said, "Siyuan, be good and wait for Mom to come back." Zhu Siyuan wiped his tears on Ningxu's body and said with a choked voice, "Siyuan will wait for Mom." Ningxu wiped his face and turned to leave. When he turned back, he saw that Zhu Siyuan was holding the teacher's hand and waving at him. Now Zhu Siyuan was really like a little man. He was even more stalwart than Zhu Yanqiu. After sending Zhu Siyuan to the boarding school, he went to find the interviewer and asked him to take care of his son. 3 days passed quickly. Ningxu only took 2 pieces of underwear and then carried a large medical box to the military camp. The box was filled with medicinal powders made by Ningxu. There were medicinal powders for stopping bleeding, preventing heat stroke and diarrhea, and some anti-inflammatory Western medicine. There were about 25 kilograms of medicinal powders in the box. Fortunately, Ningxu had practiced peerless martial arts. In addition, he had been doing physical training, so it was not too difficult for him to carry the box. The 3 male field military doctors with Ningxu were also assigned. Ningxu did not know where they were assigned. Ningxu's treatment was a little better than ordinary soldiers, but it was not much better. After a round of gunfire swearing, the army immediately went to the battlefield to stop the invaders and drive them out of their own country. Because Ningxu was a military doctor, he could sit in the car and did not have to carry a medical box and follow the army. It was July, and the weather was very hot. The marching team was under the hot sun. Some soldiers could not stand it and got dehydrated. Ningxu boiled a pot of water with a military pot and sprinkled medicinal powders for the soldiers who got heatstroke to drink. Ningxu was glad that he had prepared everything in advance. Otherwise, he would have been numb at this time. As a military doctor, he was useless. He estimated that he would not live for long. If something happened, he would be abandoned. People who had no value were not worth the effort to save. The army was rushing day and night. Without enough vehicles, the soldiers could only run. They hurried to the battlefield. From afar, they could hear the sound of cannons and gunfire. There were fighter jets flying in the sky, and from time to time, they would throw down a lethal bomb. Ningxu was arranged to be in a tent at the back of the battlefield. It was said that the previous field military doctor had died, and Ningxu was to replace him. Ningxu walked into the tent and saw that it was full of wounded people. Everyone's expression was abnormally painful. Some people were even rolling on the ground in pain, crying out in pain. It looked like they were about to die. Ningxu quickly put down the medicine box and began to treat the wounded. Ningxu was busy. After treating the wounded, he immediately treated the next one. It was Ning Shu's first time participating in a modern war. His ears were filled with the roar of cannons and the figures of fighter jets above. Bullets flew past his ears. One bullet could end a life. Ning Shu wrapped a piece of cloth tightly around a soldier's thigh. This soldier's calf had been blown away. The wound was bloody and there were white bones. Now it was bleeding. The soldier's pupils had begun to dilate. It was obvious that he was not going to make it. He wrapped the thigh with a piece of cloth to prevent the blood from flowing too fast. Then he sprinkled hemostatic powder on the wound. The soldier cried out in pain. Ning Shu gritted his teeth and treated the wound. In this situation, it was impossible to comfort the wounded. Every now and then someone was carried in. Ning Shu took the lead to treat the seriously injured. Those who were not seriously injured waited. Ning Shu treated all kinds of wounds as if he was numb. He was tired, very tired, but his body could not stop. Ning Shu knew that being a field military doctor would be tough, but he did not expect it to be so tough. Moreover, he had to be on guard against the enemy's cannons. Every time a cannonball was dropped, Ning Shu felt that his ears were going deaf. The ground below shook violently. After the airdrop was over, Ning Shu got up from the ground and continued to treat the wounded soldiers. Ning Shu felt that his hands were useless. He did not know when he could stop. Chapter 580. The war didn't stop from the morning until the evening. There were more and more wounded people in the tent. Ning Shu was so busy that she didn't even drink a sip of water. She only managed to hold on by stuffing a fasting pill into her mouth. Ning Shu's ears were filled with the rumbling sounds of cannonballs. The enemy's fighter jets whistled in the air, causing the ground to shake from time to time. There were a few cannonballs that landed beside the tent. Ning Shu could even feel the heat waves from the cannonballs burning her skin, causing her skin to burn with pain. It was really too dangerous. Modern wars were more cruel. All kinds of weapons were more lethal. The damage and pain to the soldiers were greater. Why else would it be said that war pushed the development of human beings? Doctor, help take a look. A hurried female voice sounded. Her voice was filled with anxiety. Ning Shu found the voice familiar. He turned around and saw Fang Feifei in a military uniform with a camera hanging on her chest. Fang Feifei was supporting an injured person. Ning Shu looked at the soldier and grinned. It was Zhu Yanqiu. Zhu Yanqiu's shoulder was bleeding. Obviously she was shot. He didn't expect the three of them to meet under such circumstances. Fang Feifei was stunned when she saw Ning Shu. She stuttered and asked, "You're a military doctor?" Ning Shu ignored her and was busy treating the soldier's wound. Fang Feifei didn't care about why this woman was here. She quickly said to Ning Shu, "Please take a look at Yanqiu. Yanqiu was shot. Put him over there." "I'll be right there," Ning Shu said. "But he's badly injured. Can you take a look at him first?" Fang Feifei was frightened when she saw Zhu Yanqiu covered in blood. Ning Shu said without raising his head, "There are so many wounded people here. There are many who are more seriously injured than him. They are all waiting for treatment." I said, "Put him down and apply this powder to the wound to stop the bleeding." Seeing Ning Shu's cold face, Fang Feifei was a little speechless. She put Zhu Yanqiu on the simple operating table made of wooden planks, untied Zhu Yanqiu's clothes, and sprinkled the medicine powder that Ning Shu set on the wound. Zhu Yanqiu gasped in pain, and her body convulsed in pain. "Come and see what's going on." "What's going on?" Fang Feifei saw Zhu Yanqiu like this, and hurriedly shouted to Ning Shu. Ning Shu tied a knot on the gauze, and walked towards Zhu Yanqiu. "Hold him down. Don't let him move," Ning Shu and Fang Feifei said. "Oh!" Fang Feifei was stunned for a moment, and quickly held Zhu Yanqiu back. Ning Shu picked up the scalpel, and cut open the wound a little. Then he took out the bullet and the fragments with a screwdriver. Then he sprinkled the powder and wrapped it with gauze. The whole process took more than 10 minutes. Zhu Yanqiu wailed in pain. The scalpel cut through the skin, and the screwdriver stirred in the wound. Zhu Yanqiu was in so much pain that she didn't want to move. Fang Feifei finally held down Zhu Yanqiu, who was moving around. Seeing Ning Shu's vigorous movements, she said in disbelief, "Why don't you give him anesthesia?" Ning Shu glanced at Fang Feifei. "There is no such precious thing as anesthesia here. Every soldier is holding on like this. Ning Shu stuffed another anti-inflammatory medicine into Zhu Yanqiu's mouth. Get him some water and take the medicine. Ning Shu gave a few words of advice before she went to treat the others. Fang Feifei glanced at Ning Shu, unscrewed the kettle, and carefully fed water to Zhu Yanqiu, who was groaning in pain. Then, she stayed beside Zhu Yanqiu. Looking at the busy Ning Shu and the injured Zhu Yanqiu, she frowned. Military doctor, come with me. A man in a military uniform came in with 2 medals hanging on his chest. He walked into the tent and looked around. When he saw Ning Shu, he immediately said, "Someone is injured. Come with me." "Why don't you bring him here?" Ning Shu asked while his hands were busy. "Sir was shot. He has to command the whole battlefield and can't leave. If he leaves, it will be a great blow to the morale. Now come with me," the man anxiously said to Ning Shu. "If there is no accident, we can hold the fort before dark, so sir can only hold on." Ning Shu said, "Oh." He put the medicine box on his shoulder and said to Fang Feifei, who was guarding Zhu Yanqiu, "Don't be idle. If these wounded people need water or something, help them. If new wounded people are sent in, and there is a lot of bleeding, sprinkle this powder on the wound. Stop the bleeding first and wait for me to come back." Fang Feifei was stunned by Ning Shu's words. She took the powder from Ning Shu and was about to speak, but he had already left the tent. Ning Shu walked in the trench with his back bent. There were bullets raining in his ears. Ning Shu was almost hit by a flying bullet, so he quickly bent down even more. Bang! A soldier was shot and fell in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu immediately squatted down to see if he could be saved. "Let's go." "What are you doing?" "Sir is still waiting." Ning Shu, the officer in front of him, roared. The sound of artillery shells was too loud. People couldn't hear him at all if they didn't speak loudly. Oh, she wanted to save the wounded as soon as she saw them, but her body reacted faster than her brain. It was a conditioned reflex. Ning Shu felt the soldier's pulse and found that he was already dead. Ning Shu quickly followed the military officer and saw a few people surrounding a person lying on a stretcher in the trench. The officer lying on the stretcher was about 30 or 40 years old. Because of excessive bleeding, his face was pale, and even his lips were pale. He had already fallen into a coma. Ning Shu saw that the clothes around his chest were wet with blood. His heart should be injured. Ning Shu suddenly felt numb. It was not easy to save him. If he died, would she be killed by these officers? Ning Shu put down the first aid kit and unbuttoned the officer's clothes. He took a cotton ball and wiped the blood from the wound. There was a hole in his chest. Ning Shu's heart was cold. How could he save him? How is it? Hurry up and save him. Several officers looked at Ning Shu. For a moment, Ning Shu was under a lot of pressure. Ning Shu took a scalpel and cleaned the edge of the skin. He widened the wound and exposed the wound. Without anesthetics, the unconscious officer woke up from the pain and moved his body. The officers beside him quickly held him down. Ning Shu pulled open the necrotic tissue and saw the deformed bullet head stuck in the ribs. There were also some fragments scattered in the flesh. If these fragments were not taken out, they would cause lead poisoning. Ning Shu held a scalpel and slowly pried open the rib tissue. The senior officer was in so much pain that he gasped and opened his eyes. His face was full of pain, and he was sweating profusely. Ning Shu took out the bullet with a suction cup in her right hand. Then, the wound started bleeding like a fountain. Ning Shu sprinkled some medicinal powder and quickly covered the wound with a cotton ball. When the bleeding stopped, Ning Shu cleaned up some of the fragments and covered the wound with a pad. Then she bandaged the wound and fixed it. Ning Shu looked at the senior officer who was barely breathing and felt anxious. She dissolved the anti-inflammatory and anti-infection Western medicine in water and asked the officer to feed it to the senior officer. Chapter 581. After finishing these things, Ning Shu planned to go back. The officer who called Ning Shu said to Ning Shu, "You go back first. I'll call you when the officer has something to do." Okay. Ning Shu carried the medical kit and left. He walked in the trench like a cat. When he met an injured soldier, he immediately put down the medical kit to save him. When Ning Shu returned to the tent, She saw that Fang Feifei was running around in circles. Because she had never done these things before, she was flustered. When she saw that Ning Shu had returned, she let out a long sigh of relief. Ning Shu put down the medical kit and put on gloves. He asked Fang Feifei, "Whose wound is more serious?" "That one over there. He was shot twice." Fang Feifei pointed at a person on a wooden board. Ning Shu walked over and felt the pulse. It was very weak. There was also powder on the wound that Fang Feifei had scattered. Ning Shu took out silver needles and inserted 2 needles into the soldier's body. Then he began to treat the wound. Fang Feifei looked at Ning Shu in a daze. She felt that the person in front of her was not the illiterate Zhu Sunyang that Zhu Yinqiu said. How could he treat the wound so calmly, be the child bride that Zhu Yinqiu said didn't know anything? It was already dark. Ning Shu couldn't see when he was treating the wound. Besides, after a busy day, his eyes couldn't take it anymore. It was very strenuous to hold the scalpel and bend over. "Bring me the lamp over there. I can't see," Ning Shu said to Fang Feifei, who was standing there. "Oh, okay." Fang Feifei brought the oil lamp over and put it in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu could barely see. The sound of artillery fire gradually decreased. The gunshots were not as intense as before. Ning Shu knew that today's battle was over. After suturing the wound, Ning Shu stretched and let out a long sigh. It was so tiring. After the battle ended, many more wounded were carried over. Ning Shu hastened the treatment. Because it was dark, Fang Feifei had been helping to hold the oil lamp. Fang Feifei's hand was sore, so she changed to the other hand. After a while, he finally treated the wound of the wounded. It was already dark outside. It was estimated to be 10 o'clock. After that, Ning Shu thanked Fang Feifei. Fang Feifei didn't say anything. She put down the oil lamp and stayed beside Zhu Yinqiu. Ning Shu moved his stiff neck. Finally, he could have a good rest. Ning Shu wiped his scalpels and scissors clean and put them in the medicine box. There was much less medicine powder in the medicine box. It was only the first day. It seemed that he had to use it sparingly. Ning Shu felt that he should ask for medical resources from the people above. She was a military doctor, but without anti-inflammatory medicine, Ning Shu couldn't save people no matter how capable he was. When it was time to eat, the cooks sent some food over. The food was very simple. It was rice soup with pickled vegetables and cornbread. Ning Shu chewed the cornbread and drank the rice soup as clear as water when he couldn't swallow it. Fang Feifei couldn't eat these things. She put it down after one bite and took out chocolate from her pocket. Ning Shu saw Fang Feifei eating chocolate. At this time, chocolate was a very expensive Western candy. She was so rich. Zhu Yinqiu, who had been in a coma for almost half a day, finally woke up. When she opened her eyes, she was still a little dazed. She moved her body and took a breath in pain. "Yinqiu, lie down first. Don't move." Fang Feifei quickly held Zhu Yinqiu and didn't let her get up. "Feifei." Zhu Yinqiu saw Fang Feifei and smiled. Fang Feifei's tears fell down and she said with a sobbing voice, "You really scared me. I thought you wouldn't wake up." "I won't." Zhu Yinqiu grimaced in pain. Fang Feifei quickly put the rice soup in the bowl in front of Zhu Yinqiu's mouth and said, "Drink some water." Zhu Yinqiu enjoyed Fang Feifei's care. It seemed that even if she was injured, she was happy. Ning Shu chewed cornbread on the side and watched the two lovey-dovey. After eating the cornbread, Ning Shu began to check if these wounded people had a fever. A fever was also fatal. Ning Shu saw that many of these wounded people were disabled and didn't have much fighting power. They would probably be sent home by the army and compensated. Human life was the most worthless in troubled times. At least these people were still alive. Those who were hit in the vital parts and died on the spot were much better. "Military doctor, come with me quickly. The officer has a fever," Ning Shu, the previous officer, said. Ning Shu put the medicine box on his shoulder and followed without saying a word. Zhu Yinqiu, who was drinking rice soup, only saw Ning Shu's back. Under the weak light, she couldn't see clearly. She asked Fang Feifei, "Is our military doctor a woman?" Fang Feifei's hand holding the bowl paused. She just nodded and didn't say anything. Ning Shu came to the officer's tent. The officer was sleeping on a simple wooden bed. His body was slender, and his body was even longer than a wooden board. He walked over and touched his forehead. Then he looked at his wound. The gauze around the wound was oozing blood, and he was sweating all over. Ning Shu quickly said, "Get some water and wipe his body." Ning Shu opened the medicine box, dissolved the Western medicine in water, and fed it to the officer. A guard got some water for the officer to wipe his body. Ning Shu changed the gauze on the wound again. She had done everything she could. If he couldn't survive, Ning Shu felt helpless. "Where did you get these things in your box?" Ning Shu asked. Ning Shu said, "I prepared them myself. You go back first. If the officer needs anything, I'll call you again," Ning Shu said. "What's your name?" "Zhu Sunyang." Ning Shu put the medicine box on his shoulder. "Then I'll call you Military Dr. Zhu." "I'm Tang Zheng," Ning Shu said. "Officer Tang." Ning Shu said politely. Then he said, "The army is short of medicine. Simple physical therapy can't save the soldiers' lives. Can you get some medical resources?" Tang Zheng spread his hands and said, "I can't give you an accurate answer. Let's wait until the officer wakes up. It's not just our army that's short of medicine. Everything else is the same." Ning Shu could only nod. During the war, not only were medical resources scarce, but food was also scarce. Ning Shu regretted not getting more medicine. She knew that medical resources would be scarce, but she didn't expect it to be so scarce. If she hadn't prepared anything in advance, she would have been numb in the face of such a situation. Even the cleverest housewife can't cook without rice. Carrying the medicine box back to the tent, Ning Shu felt dizzy. She had been busy the whole day, and her brain hadn't rested at all. Ning Shu directly fell on the wooden plank and planned to take a nap. She didn't know what would happen tomorrow. Day after day of fierce battles, no one knew if they would still be alive tomorrow. How many comrades around them had fallen, and whether they would fall like their comrades in the next moment. People were greedy and vicious, plundering and tyrannical. In order to survive, they had to take up arms to resist. Chapter 582. Zhu Yanxiu saw that Ning Shu had come back, and then directly ignored him, and lay down to sleep. Zhu Yanxiu was stunned. Who did he just see? Zhu Sunyang. Why was Zhu Sunyang here? She was a military doctor. When did Zhu Sunyang become a military doctor? Zhu Yanxiu was dazzled by this woman's change. She was a nurse before, and now she was a military doctor on the battlefield. He, her nominal husband, didn't even know about this. That is Zhu Sunyang, right? Zhu Yanxiu asked Fang Feifei uncertainly. Fang Feifei looked very bad. She fiddled with the camera in her hand and said, "It's your wife Zhu Sunyang." Zhu Yanxiu quickly said, "I have never admitted that Zhu Sunyang is my wife. Don't be angry." Fang Feifei looked up at Zhu Yanxiu and said, "Zhu Sunyang has become a military doctor now, and maybe she came to the army for you. Aren't you touched?" Zhu Yanxiu shook his head and said, "I'm not touched. I'm touched that when I told you that I was going to the battlefield, you followed me to the battlefield without hesitation. Zhu Sunyang has nothing to do with me." Zhu Yanxiu said expressionlessly. He remembered all the things that Zhu Sunyang had done to him. He didn't want to spend the rest of his life with such a person. Fang Feifei didn't believe it. "Do you really think so? Don't you have a child?" Speaking of the child, Zhu Yanxiu sighed. That child grew up with his mother. He doesn't have a father in his heart. He was influenced by Zhu Sunyang, so he has a grudge against me. Fang Feifei frowned and could only sigh. She said, "I think Zhu Sunyang came to be a military doctor for you this time. She probably wants to reconcile with you." "Absolutely impossible. It's impossible. I don't like Zhu Sunyang," Zhu Yanxiu said firmly. The next day, Ning Shu was awakened by a gunshot. With this gunshot, the sound of artillery fire rang out. The battle began again. Ning Shu drank a glass of water, stuffed a fasting pill into his mouth, put on gloves, and started a new day's work. Before any new wounded were brought in, Ning Shu checked the condition of the wounded. If they had a fever, he would give them medicine or change the gauze. "Zhu Sunyang, even if you followed me here, it's impossible for us," Zhu Yanxiu said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu was changing the gauze for the wounded person next to Zhu Yanxiu. When she heard this, she was stunned for a moment. Her face was full of confusion. Wasn't he feeling too good about himself? At this time, a wounded person was carried in. Ning Shu ignored Zhu Yanqiu and started treating the wounded person. This kind of disregard made Zhu Yanqiu so angry that his wound hurt. Zhu Yanqiu covered his wound. Seeing Ning Shu skillfully treating the soldier's wound, Zhu Yanqiu was a little confused. Was this still the Zhu Sunyang in his memory? Zhu Sunyang was cautious and submissive, like a wooden puppet. The way she spoke was also unpleasant. At first glance, one could tell that she didn't know much. So Zhu Yanqiu didn't like Zhu Sunyang so much. Even if the two of them consummated their marriage, it was probably because Zhu Yanqiu was in puberty. His hormones were restless, and he had a strong attraction to the opposite sex. In addition, he could have consummated his marriage with Zhu Sunyang openly. Zhu Yanqiu ignored Zhu Sunyang, but this weed that he ignored actually bloomed a gorgeous flower now. Zhu Yanqiu was a little unhappy in his heart. He was lying here injured, but Zhu Sunyang was holding a scalpel and skillfully treating people's wounds. This change of identity made Zhu Yanqiu feel very uncomfortable. Moreover, he was saved by Zhu Sunyang. He felt ashamed in his heart. The reason why he joined the army was also because of Zhu Sunyang. On one hand, he wanted to make contributions on the battlefield. On the other hand, he wanted to get out of trouble. Because of Zhu Sunyang, he was gossiped about in school. So many classmates said that he was married and even had children. It was obviously the best time for a man, but he was already a husband and a father. Fang Feifei ignored him because of this. Moreover, he had no money on him. He didn't even have the money to rent a house and eat. Coincidentally, the war broke out at this time. So Zhu Yanqiu decided to join the army. Zhu Yanqiu went to see Fang Feifei and said that he was going to the battlefield. Maybe they wouldn't see each other again in this life. Zhu Yanqiu hugged Fang Feifei and said, "I love you in this life. You will always be in my heart." Fang Feifei was held in Zhu Yanqiu's arms. She felt that Zhu Yanqiu's body was trembling. It seemed that Zhu Yanqiu was holding back all his feelings. At this moment, Fang Feifei felt Zhu Yanqiu's sincere feelings. Fang Feifei liked Zhu Yanqiu in her heart, but she was angry that Zhu Yanqiu lied to her. She felt as if she was a part of someone else's family. She was very uncomfortable in her heart. However, Fang Feifei was moved by Zhu Yanqiu's deep feelings. Thinking that Zhu Yanqiu was going to the battlefield, which was very dangerous, maybe they would be separated by life and death without her knowing. Thinking that she wouldn't be able to see Zhu Yanqiu in the future, Fang Feifei felt warm in her heart and made a decision. Rather than being separated, it was better to go to the battlefield together. At least they could still see each other. Zhu Yanqiu became a soldier, and Fang Feifei became a war reporter. The two went to the battlefield together. If nothing went wrong, the two would write a touching war song. However, Zhu Yanqiu felt that something was wrong when he went to the battlefield for the first time. There was something wrong with his index finger. When he pulled the trigger, he was very weak. Usually he was fine, but when he aimed at the enemy and pulled the trigger, his index finger would tremble. He could barely pull the trigger with his index finger, but the hit rate was very low. He didn't know what was wrong with him. The old soldier next to him said that he was dizzy and wasn't suitable to hold a gun. Zhu Yanqiu felt very uncomfortable. He went to the battlefield to bring glory to his ancestors. Now he couldn't kill the enemy with a gun. What was this? He still had to revitalize the Zhu family and give Fang Feifei a beautiful future. Going to the battlefield was Zhu Yanqiu's opportunity. Maybe he wanted to serve the country, but Zhu Yanqiu wanted to use this opportunity to succeed more. More importantly, Zhu Yanqiu didn't tell Fang Feifei that the Zhu family was no longer a big family. From the beginning to the end, Fang Feifei thought that Zhu Yanqiu was a young master of a big family. A young master of a big family was going to the battlefield to save the country, and it was because of her. This was enough to make this man stand tall in a woman's heart. To some extent, Zhu Yanqiu was a liar. He found all kinds of lies to get money from Zhu Sunyang. He hid from Fang Feifei that he had a family, a wife and a child, and he was dating Fang Feifei. He didn't reveal any clues from the beginning to the end. Even now, Zhu Yanqiu still hid something from Fang Feifei. Chapter 583. Zhu Yanxiu was afraid that Fang Feifei would leave him because of family conditions. So he wanted to fight for a future on the battlefield. Even if Fang Feifei knew the truth, she wouldn't leave him easily. Zhu Yanxiu lied to two women at the same time. He lied to Zhu Sunyang out of malice. He took money from Zhu Sunyang and lied to Fang Feifei out of kindness. He tried every means to keep Fang Feifei by his side because he loved Fang Feifei. But now he couldn't hold a gun. He was injured on the first day on the battlefield and was saved by Zhu Sunyang. Zhu Yanxiu felt complicated. He felt that God was really unfair. He didn't have any place to stand out. Even Zhu Sunyang, who didn't know anything, became a military doctor on the battlefield. Zhu Yanxiu was very angry. Zhu Sunyang was a member of the Zhu family and was raised by the Zhu family. After her parents died, Zhu Sunyang betrayed them and took away the Zhu family's money. Now she had a meteoric rise. She was simply a shameless woman. Ning Shu was treating the soldier's wounds when she felt a burning gaze. She turned around and saw Zhu Yanxiu staring at her with a very resentful gaze. Her eyes were red. Ning Shu snorted and continued with her work. Zhu Yanxiu was used to venting all her emotions on her. There were more and more wounded people, and the front line was still retreating. It meant that the front line couldn't hold on anymore. The enemy's firepower was originally strong, and their weapons were stronger than hers. Ning Shu's simple operating room was also retreating. When they retreated, there were still air forces shooting crazily from the sky. This land fell. Although many soldiers sacrificed their lives, they couldn't stop the invaders. Ning Shu felt how small an individual's strength was. Even if she was a mission enforcer, she couldn't stop the wheels of history. What Ning Shu wanted to do was to try her best to save as many people as she could. She didn't have the ability to turn the tide of the battle around with a flip of her hand. Ning Shu opened the box and saw that there wasn't much powder left, but there were more and more wounded people. Ning Shu was very anxious. If this continued, the powder would be gone sooner or later. She had to think of a way to tell the higher-ups. The higher-ups kept saying that resources were tight, but too many soldiers had died. It was her responsibility as a military doctor. Ning Shu had many things to worry about every day. As long as a soldier's heart did not stop beating, she had to do her best to save them. Ning Shu really wanted to have a helper by his side. He had to do everything by himself. And he also needed her to do some trivial things. Ning Shu told Tang Zheng that he could look for him if he needed anything. As long as it was something beneficial to the military, he would do his best to fight for it. Ning Shu told Tang Zheng that he needed an assistant to bandage the warrior's wounds. Not long after, Tang Zheng brought a young lady over. The young lady looked young, about 15 or 16 years old. Her name was Xiao Tong. Later, when Ning Shu became familiar with the girl, he found out that the girl had been raped by a Japanese devil. Moreover, it was not a Japanese devil. Fortunately, she was saved by someone. Ning Shu taught the little girl how to wrap the bandage. She taught the little girl some basic knowledge, so Xiaotong usually called Ning Shu master. Ning Shu saw her like this, and taught her everything he knew. Now was the time when the country was in trouble. Even if one person's strength was small, it was still huge when accumulated. With a helper, Ning Shu's work was much easier. Some trivial things were left to Xiaotong to handle. During this time, Fang Feifei was already a slightly famous war reporter. Many newspapers used her photos of the battlefield. However, Zhu Yanxiu did not have much progress. Because she was injured, she had to recuperate for a long time. Every day, she looked at Ning Shu's busy face. When she heard the people in the military call Ning Shu military Dr. Zhu, and seemed to respect her, Zhu Yanxiu felt as if there were countless ants gnawing at her heart. He really wanted to tell these people that this woman was not worthy of respect at all. She was just a woman who had been sold as a servant since she was young. From the beginning to the end, this woman ignored him and treated him as heir. Fang Feifei was busy taking photos every day. She only came to take care of him after the war was over. When Zhu Yanxiu saw Ning Shu, he was anxious. When he saw Fang Feifei, he was also anxious. Because Fang Feifei had already left in front of him. He had nothing now and was afraid that Fang Feifei would leave him. However, he was injured. Zhu Yanqiu pursed his lips and made up his mind to go to the battlefield. If this continued, Zhu Sunyang would be more capable than him. Fang Feifei came back with a camera and asked Zhu Yanqiu, who looked gloomy, "Does the wound still hurt?" Zhu Yanqiu put away the loneliness on her face and reached out to wipe Fang Feifei's face. Her face was covered with dirt. She said, "It's good that you're okay. I'm worried about you all the time." "I'm fine." Fang Feifei gathered the camera and said, "I took a lot of photos again. These photos are evidence of the invaders invading our country." A smile appeared on Zhu Yanqiu's face. "Feifei, you're great." Fang Feifei smiled sweetly at Zhu Yanqiu and then glanced at Ning Xu, who was busy treating the soldier's wound. Fang Feifei's eyes flashed when she saw him treating the soldier's wound and telling Xiaotong what to do with a solemn expression. Ning Xu basically had to work until midnight with the help of Xiaotong. Xiaotong was a quiet child. Perhaps it was because she had suffered a serious injury at a young age that made her feel inferior. She was very active in doing things. Usually, she would pour tea for Ning Xu. Ning Xu had fasting pills himself. If he was really hungry, he would eat fasting pills and give half of his food to Xiaotong. A military doctor was a job that required a lot of physical strength. If one did not have enough physical strength, it would not work. Ning Xu's actions made Zhu Yanqiu so angry that she wanted to die. He was Zhu Sunyang's husband. Although he couldn't be considered her husband, he should at least be her eldest young master. Ning Xu usually ignored him and didn't give him anything to eat. She treated an outsider better than him. Zhu Yanqiu wanted to get angry at Ning Xu, but considering his own body, he still needed Ning Xu to take care of his wound. No one could offend a doctor. No one could guarantee that they would not be injured on the battlefield. Ning Xu saw Zhu Yanqiu looking at him with red eyes and a constipated expression. Ning Xu was speechless. He turned around and said to Xiaotong, "Sleep for a while. There are more things to do tomorrow." Xiaotong nodded. Ning Xu asked, "Master, do you want me to get some water for you to wash?" Ning Xu waved his hand. "Rest. You don't have to do these things." In this situation, how could she care about whether her body was clean or not? Ning Xu could even smell the sweat on her body. She only needed to ensure that her hands were clean. She just had to endure the rest. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.